short-term, self-liquidating, secured by the underlying goods and speedily completed. I just want you to think about the documented credit definition. According to the documented credit definition we have learned, make a Q&A band. Can I call you back after 5 o'clock? I'm in a lecture. Right. Okay. To pay a certain amount immediately or at a future date, provided that the stipulated documents are presented and undertaken from the importer's bank to the exporter, only if the documents are in strict conformity with the DC terms. Then make risk to pay a certain amount immediately or at a future date, provided that I have put it in bold capital letters, provided that the stipulated documents are presented. If not, we will not pay. And undertaking from the importer's bank to the exporter. Not the importer will give the undertaking. Importer's bank will give the undertaking to the exporter. And only if the documents are in strict conformity with the DC terms. Right? Okay. And the other thing, this also you should have some idea. I think by now I'm sure I told you to go through the UCP 600 articles one by one. I'm just reminding you about the Article 4. Credits by their nature are separate transactions from sales or other contracts. In international trade, credits by their nature, they are separate transactions from sales or other contracts. Sales contract is a venomega. International trade is a transaction is a venomega. Article 5, in credit operation, all parties concerned deal with documents and not with goods. In LC, we only deal with documents, not with goods, services or any other performance to which the documents may relate. Right? We are only dealing with the documents. Whether the goods are there or not, we have to pay if the documents are correct. Article 14A, it says a nominated bank acting on its nomination, a confirming bank, if any, and the issuing bank must examine the presentation to determine on the basis of the documents alone. Article 5 make a rate, right? We have to determine the presentation only by checking the documents. Documents alone, documents is right. Whether or not the documents appear on their face to constitute a compliant presentation. A documents whether it has constituted a compliant presentation. Right? Article 4, Article 5, Article 14A. LC operation. We are only dealing with the documents. Right? Okay. Consideration of risk involved in international trade. Before deciding whether to enter into a foreign market, and you think if you are a importer or exporter, now if you are an importer, you want to import certain commodities from overseas country. If you are an exporter, you want to export certain commodities to overseas countries, right? So in both ways, you are at a risk, because in international trade, the buyer and the seller are in two different countries, not known to each other. So always there will be certain issues and risk. Right? Today we are going to learn those risk. Right? One questions in the pulang risk. Another thing, as bankers, I think majority of the class, more than 96% of your class are bankers. Whether you are in trade, I don't think anybody in trade, whether you are in trade or in any other area in banking, especially if you are in the branch banking and all, you should know what is these basics, right? Okay. One of the risk in international trade operations, the buyers and sellers has to consider is language and culture. We know a majority of international trade operations will be handled by English language. අපි ලංකාවේ වුණාට අපි මොන බැංකුවේ වෙලත් LC එක ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් අරින්නේ නැහැනේ. ඒක අරින්නේ ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන්. ඉංග්‍රීසි වලින් තමයි. So English is considered as a standard language in international trade. But it is not universal. Right? There are other languages used in international trade. I have experience of receiving LCs in French language. English ගාවට වැඩියම use and language එක මොකක්ද? Trade එකේ. International trade or domestic trade LCs අරනවා නම් LCs අරනකොට international LCs domestic LCs දෙකම එකට තිබ්බොත් LC market එකේ English තමයි number 1. Second language එක මොකක්ද? Mostly used next to English මොකක්ද?
Chinese, sir.
Very good. Very good. Very good answer. Chinese. Well, China is so large. They are very prominent in domestic trade. Chinese language. Cultural differences and sensitivities are equally likely to provide potential traps. Cultural differences. Our culture, Chinese culture, Saudi culture, Muslim culture, different cultures. So we have these issues, right? Some are sensitive. Number 2 is the legal issues. Different legal systems in countries, right? Different legal systems in countries. Different legal systems in countries in the sense, I think I have repeated this over and over. In Sri Lanka, we use Roman Dutch law of English law. But countries like Saudi, Dubai and all, Middle East countries, they use Sharia law, right? So different legal systems in countries. Uncertainty of legal procedures or changes in legislation. Uncertainty of legal procedures or changes in legislation. For example, exchange control rules, ours as well as other countries, right? Then another risk we have to consider is buyers and sellers. Buyers and sellers. Buyers and sellers, of course, they are in 2 different countries and their respective countries, the exchange rate and the currency risk they are having, right? Then the bargaining power. Some are powerful in bargaining. Some are not powerful, right? If you are powerful in bargaining, you can negotiate the prices. If you are not, right? Customs and practices. Different countries, their customs, using in that particular country and certain practices. Financial risk. Financial risk. The buyer or seller both concerns on deferred or advance payment. The buyer will always look for a deferred payment, just to delay the payment as much as possible. But the seller, he would like to have advance payment, right? So, two different parties have two different concerns. Credit risk. Credit risk කියන්නේ මේ ගන්න pay කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියන එක risk එක. Risk under different payment methods that we have discussed. Open account and advance payment, but other risk කියලා මම කිව්වා. Part of the risk, buyer to the seller to the. I'm not going to repeat it. That we have discussed. Then collection, we are mitigating the risk up to a certain extent, but still the banks will not give me undertaking. Okay. So again, there's a risk. Then role of bank guarantees. Role of bank guarantees to mitigate buyers against this risk. Role of bank guarantees to mitigate buyers against this risk. Transport risk, higher. Please stop me and ask questions, right? I would like the more questions you ask, it will be I am the happiest person, right? Transport risk. The length of time the goods need to travel to get to their final destination. The length of time the goods needs to travel to meet their destination. Right? Risk of goods being damaged or being tampered with while in transit. Goods can be damaged or tampered while in transit. Appropriate insurance to mitigate the risk. How to mitigate that risk, transport risk? We have to obtain the appropriate insurance. Okay. Right. Now, can you tell me how many people? Can somebody tell me? I can't see that number of participants. Well, I need to tell you something. Huh?
43.
43. 43. Now we have sufficient number of people. I think we have about 113 altogether, but 43, 50 other number of people who are attending the classes, right?
So last week you didn't finish input. Will you edit later?
Ek ඉවර කළේ නැද්ද?
No.
No, sir, no.
අපි කොතනද නැවතුනේ?
We discuss only two.
Only FOB, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, sir.
What happened? I thought we have finished. Right. In that case, I will do that again. Right. And first we'll finish this one, then we'll move on to the other one. Right. That's what I asked Menaka also whether I have finished. අපි ද මොනවද කළේ අපි එතකොට? එද ඊට කලින් තව එකක් කළාද?
සර් FOB ගාවට විතරක් නතර කරලා ඉවරලා එතනින් එහාට මේ අපි දන්නේ නැහැ මොකද්ද උනේ කියලා. මේ එකපාරම තාසෙ නතර කරා.
නෑ හරි. 4 o'clock විතර වගේ අපිට නවත්තනවා නේද? මේ හෙන ගහලා.
ඔව් සර්.
ඔව් ඒක තමයි වෙන්නේ. අදත් ඒ වගේ කළු කරගෙන යනවා. හරි. අපි මම මේක අද ඉවරක් කරලා දාලා මේ ඉන්කෝ ටයිම් එක අපි පටන් ගමු. පටන් අරන් FOB එකකින් මේ කරමු. හරි? FOB එක ගාව ඉඳන් අපි කරගෙන යන්න. මම කරන්න ආයේ. No issue. Right? මම කියන්නේ ගියේ don't miss the classes because a lot of things we are discussing and everything will not be in the presentation, right? So if you are missing, it will be difficult for you to understand, right? Because that
So is
examination,
there any assignment for this
that
IPA?
that is what we are discussing. There normally we give assignments for marks of 30%, 30%, 30% for the assignment, 70% for the final exam. That is how we test. Okay. Now, because of this COVID-19 and learning from home and all those things, now we are just thinking whether we can do the assignment, one assignment for 30 marks, right? Another assignment for 30 marks and the final one for 40. ඒතර උගන්ට එකක් ගෙදරින්ම කරන්න පුළුවන්. අනිත් එක ඔන්ලයින් කරන්න අපි එතනකර මේ වෙන් යන්න. මොනවාද multiple choice questions. Right? Multiple choice questions වලින් අපි එක assignment එකක් යවන්න. එතකොට ඒකට අපිට 30 marks දෙන්න පුළුවන්. For example, if I give you about 40 questions, you have the options to select 25. Option එකක් තියෙනවා. අරකින් මේ drop down එකකින් තමයි කැමති එකක් තෝරලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. අරගෙන අපි time එකක් දීලා කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ අලුත් method එකකට අපිට යන්න වෙනවා. Final exam එකේ තව දිග questions දෙන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. පොඩි පොඩි කොට කැලි වලින් දෙන්න. එතකොට subject area එක cover කරගන්න පුළුවන් අපිට. නැත්නම් එක තැනකට ගෙනල්ලා ලියන්න බෑනේ. ඒක පුළුවන් තරම් අඩු කරගන්න. ඒක ෆයිනල් එක්සෑම් එක 1.5 hours වලට විතර වගේ ලිමිට් කරගත්තොත් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ලේසි හැබැයි. අපි බලන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද මේ ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක තියාගන්නේ කියන එක දෙකෙන්ම. දැන් ඒකෙන්ද චුට්ටක් බලන්න එනවා මේ we never expected this type of things, right? When we started the sessions, now we had to think about that's the way campuses are doing now. In their this thing, they give only 30% for the final paper. Others are assignments, right? So assignment එක මම දෙන්නම් තව සුමානෙකින් දෙයකින් ගෙදරින් නම් කරන assignment එකත් මම දෙන්නම්. right? ඒක අපි කරමු. right, අපි ඉවර කරගන්න ඕන පුළුවන් තරම් අදත් බැරි වෙලාව ඇස්සොත් එහෙම මම ඔයගොල්ලෝ නවත්තන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා කියන්නම් කපාඩ් නයිට් ගියේ නැත්නම් half an hour වලින් විතර ගෙන්න ගොඩාක් වෙලා නැති වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. You quit and then join again after half an hour. අපි ඒ agreement එකේ එමු. මම පිටුපස්සෙන් අල්ලගෙන යන්න. Even after 5 o'clock we are from home, so we can finish it off, right? Okay. The common risk in international trade operations. The one is sovereign and regulatory risk. We call it country risk. We call it country risk. That means sudden impose of foreign payment restrictions, right? Like some people, some countries, they impose sudden foreign payment restrictions. Even in Sri Lanka, we are having this issue now at the moment, right? We are not importing. What do you call this? Vehicles. Today, in today's papers, I saw that they are not going to import vehicles for another 1 year, right? And for certain commodities, they say to pay after 90 days, whereas the sellers from that time, they want immediate money. So we have issues. Because we don't have, there's a scarcity of foreign exchange, right? Okay. Restrictive government policies, exchange control regulations, tariff and quota restrictions. Again, let's impose of foreign restrictions in the EU. Then import-export prohibitions. Sometimes export prohibitions can happen. Import licensing. Then trade embargoes. Trade embargoes can countries like Iran, North Korea, they have trade embargoes. US as well as UN, United Nations. Trade embargoes are there. You can't do trading with those countries. Anti-dumping legislation. Some countries, some developed countries, they have anti-dumping legislation. You can't, in Sri Lanka, you can get down any damn thing and any garbage you can import. But certain countries, they are very specific. Right? They don't want their country to be a dumping yard. අපි තමයි ඕනයක් ගේන්න දෙන්නේ. Inadequate foreign exchange reserves, scarcity of convertible currency, fluctuation of volatility of foreign exchange exposure. In Sri Lanka, at the moment, අපිට මාස කීයකට හරියන්න foreign exchange තියනවද? මාස කීයක imports වලට? Guess කරන්න. මාස කීයකට හරියන්න තියනවද? දැන්ට කොවිඩ් ඉඳන් ඔක්කොම අපි හිර වෙලා ඉන්නේ. තමයි අපි මේ import restrictions දාලා තියන්නේත් ඒකයි. To reserve the money, right? We have only 3.5 months imports money, foreign exchange to cover 3.5 months imports, right? So normally we had 3.5 to 4 months තමයි තිබුණේ හැමදාම. ඔය ගානේ අපි තාම තියාගෙන යනවා. Then foreign exchange risk. Trade is always at the mercy of exchange rate fluctuations due to various political, economic, and even purely speculative reasons. By the time when we open LC, the rate could be 180 per dollar. By the time we receive the documents for the payment after 2 months, the rate might have gone up to 185, right? So that volatility is very, very serious because you can't calculate your profits, right? All your profits will be wiped off with foreign exchange risk. Local currency can wipe out the entire profit. Also interest rate risk due to floating rate loans, right? Maybe experienced bank can understand what I am telling. We talk about country risk, foreign exchange risk. The third one is bank risk, right? Certain banks, their financial instability or poor creditworthiness is a risk, right? Even in Sri Lanka, not all the banks are stable. There are some unstable banks also, not so stable, right? Then poor checking standards and having a habit of rejecting the documents, quoting various discrepancies. Some Chinese banks, they have this habit, right? It is not poor checking standard. They do it as a habit of rejecting the documents, quoting various discrepancies. So recently, I am having one issue with me. I don't have any issues. my students are calling me and discussing with me with the issues in their banks. Some French banks also, now they are into this. It's a risk. Delay in making payments to correspondent. Another thing, there are certain African banks, they try to delay the payments to the correspondent bank. Even though the importer has paid the money, they try to roll it for 1 or 2 days. Okay? Then non-adherence to ICC rules. Some banks are not adhering to ICC rules. Being domiciled in a country notorious for forex restrictions and classified as high risk. Especially Eastern Bloc of Africa. There are a lot of countries, notorious countries for forex restrictions and high risk, right? So the banks in those countries, horrible. You should not deal with those banks. The legal risk, dispute settlement legal policies, injunction order against payments, those are some legal risks. In Sri Lanka, we had this issue, injunction order against payment. That was a common thing about 15, 20 years back. But I think it was during Mrs. Chandrika Kumargunja's time. One good thing what she did was she changed this legal system. The injunction order, it's not easy to get an injunction order now. You have to prove it. Instead of him, right? Right. Fraud risk. In trade, this is one of the most important and common risk in international trade. Fraud. It can be done by the importer as well as the exporter. So therefore, dealing with a seller who is not known is a problem. You should know with whom you are dealing. Right? Then නම් අපේ තියෙනවා banks වල මේකට policy එකක්. මොකද්ද? දැන් අපි හරියට කරනවාද කියලා හැබැයි නම තවත් කියන්න. KYC. Right? Now, in international trade, that is why I have mentioned know who can be even more important than know how. Without the know-how, you can't do international trade. But the more important thing is, more than the know-how, you should know with whom you are dealing. Know who can be even more important than know how. Right? අද කොච්චරලා යන්න පුළුවන් ඒ දැන දැම්මම වැස්ස පටන් ගත්තා මම ඒකෙන් තමයි ඔකට කිව්වේ ඔයගන්ට ඇහෙන ඇති සද්දේ ඕක ගාලා වෙනවා. Then payment for non-existent or worthless goods, again presentation of falsified documents by the beneficiary. Payment for non-existent or worthless goods, non-existent or worthless goods, against presentation of falsified documents by the beneficiary. There are certain instances where you get only the documents, but when you see the goods, they are worthless goods, but the documents are perfect. And that is why I started with the definition of LC, provided if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, we will pay. Then article 4, 5, we say we are only dealing with documents. Article 14A, we say we are only dealing with documents. But documents fraud now, fraud documents now, the young MP, right? මගේ එක කස්ටමර් කෙනෙක් ගේ මෙහෙ නා ලංකාවේ ඉන්නකොට එයා ගෙනාවා මේ ටියුබ් ලයිට්ස් වල තියෙන චෝක් එක ටියුබ් ලයිට්ස් වල දෙපැත්තේ එනවනේ චෝක් එකක් කරනවා ඒ chokes from Hong Kong so he got a offer from that guy for a very unbelievable price per unit. $7 ගානකට. මෙයා බැලුවා මේක ගෙනාව හරි කියලා. And when he came to me with the LC application, when I checked the LC application, I just asked him, this happened about 25 years back. I just asked him, Mr. So-and-so, do you know this customer? I can't remember whether we have open LCs for this guy earlier. Oh no, Mr. Caldera, he is a new guy, but it's a good price and all those things. I said, so do you know him? Know who can be more important than know how, right? Then what he told me was, no, this price is very good. If I can import a container load, I can undercut the bazaar. ඒක තමයි ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ භාෂාව. bazaar කියන්නේ market එක. මෙයා පිටකොටුවේ second cross street the first cross street the business එක කළ කෙනෙක්. ඒ කියන්නේ I can undercut the bazaar. ඉතින් මං කිව්වා එහෙමනම් අපි ගමු inspection certificate. Unknown parties no. No. Why should I pay for another $500 or $800 for that inspection certificate? It's okay, we'll do it. I am okay. After 3 weeks, we got the documents perfect. We checked and we informed him the perfect documents, no discrepancies, nothing. Then he said, okay, then I'll come and collect the document. He came and he asked for a what do you call this? Import loan import loan against but clear ගිහිල්ලා බඩු ක්ලියර් කරලා බැලුවා. පහුවෙන්දා he's coming to the bank crying. I asked him why, what happened. So he said that I cleared the container and I took it to my warehouse. When I opened it, my goodness, the container was full of used slippers, used shoes, kadicha sapattu serepu, then old newspapers, straw, piduru, cardboard kali, dustbin pitimma halala. Container පුරවලා. එතන අපිට සල්ලි ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්ද? සල්ලි ගෙවන්න පුළුවන්ද අපිට? Yeah. No. සල්ලි ගෙවන්න ඕන. We have nothing to do with goods. Article 4, 5, මතකනේ? We have nothing to do with goods. We are only dealing with documents. Documents perfect. All forged documents. Deyange pitai. Right? I was at Standard Chartered at that time. So immediately what I did was I called our Standard Chartered Kowloon branch and I told him I'm so and so, and I have a problem like this. One of my customers, can you please check this guy? I'll send you the what do you call this address. Kinama address area. Standard Chartered again negotiate kala dune in a banking. After 3-4 hours, Hong Kong came back to me and he told me, this guy is a mobile guy. Then මෙහෙ තියෙන ෆෝට්වල තියෙන්නේ කාගිල්ස් බිල්ඩින් එක then ලක්සල එහෙම දේවල් තුනේ මිලර්ස් බිල්ඩින් එක ඔය බිල්ඩින්ග්ස් තියෙනවනේ අනේ ඒ මතකද උගන්ට ෆෝට් වල වැඩ කරන ළමයි නම් දන්නවා ලොකු කොරිඩෝර්ස් තියෙන්නේ right ලොකු කොරිඩෝ එක ඒ කොරිඩෝර්ස් තියෙන පරණ අරකට කොලෝනියල් country එකන්නේ සුද්දන්ගේ යටත්ලා තිබ්බ එකන්නේ සුද්දවත් මේ ආද විද්දම හෙත් හදලා ඒ වගේ countries වල ඉන්නවලු අර මේ පිකප් එක ගේන උදේට කුටුවයි මේසේ තිබ්බා කම්පියුටර් එක තියාගත්තා ඔන්න දැන් වැඩ ඒ ඩීලින් එක අවසට මුළු කම්පැනි එකම ගෙදර යනවා අවසට කම්පැනි එකම අරක පටවගෙන ගෙදර යනවා හරි ඇඩ්‍රස් එකක් හොයාගන්න බෑ. PO box numbers තමයි තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් ඕවා issues. හොයාගන්න බෑ. Right? Then forged document credit. Even the LCs are forged. That also I have a lot of experience. Forged LCs. Right? Insurance fraud. Insurance එකත් fraud කරනවා. Over insurance කරනවා. If the value of the goods are, if you say $10,000, we insure it for $25,000 or $30,000 over insurer. And some or other you try to damage the goods and go for an insurance claim. Make a plan. Then we'll go for an insurance claim. Insurance claim for 10,000 worth of goods, he is getting $25,000. Right? That's also a fraud. Charter party frauds. Charter party frauds is another common thing in international trade. Charter party means hired ships. A ship that is completely hired for one transaction. For example, in the world, sugar, cement, oil, then petroleum products, when you are transporting, they hire ships. Entire shipyard में एक hire करना है ना ये तो अभी क्या नहीं charter party ships के ना एक है पूरा fraud चलने वाला cargo theft. While in transit, there can be theft in cargo. Piracy. Mudu Bangkola connect Somalia guerrillas, right? So the golden rule is if the deal looks too good to be true, it probably can be a fraud. Banking international trade banking sector තියෙන්න පුළුවන් හොඳ golden rule එකක්. මගේ අත්දැකීමෙන් මම ලියලා තින්නේ if the deal looks too good to be true, it probably can be a fraud. මේකම ඔයගොල්ලෝ use කරන්න if the customer is too good to be true, you have to be very careful. අපල හරි බයයි මාත් එක්ක රන් වෙන customers අට මම කැමතියි. මාත් එක්ක බොරුවට ඔළුව නවාගෙන yes sir කියලාගෙන ඉන්න කට්ටිය sure නැහැ. Right? If the customer is too good to be true, that also can be a problem. And if the deal looks too good to be true, it probably can be a fraud. Right? The make people examples හැම එකෙම ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන් පරිසං වෙන එක තමයි. PC fraud prevention. Right. How to prevent the frauds with importer? Importer के पैसे कोमल अभी prevent करेगा. Check the integrity, financial standing of the exporter, middleman or the agent. Right? Those are common things. Remember, in these operations, all parties deal in documents and not in goods. Right? Another one is the goods should be readily saleable. The goods should be readily saleable. The goods should be readily saleable. Right? Lacing පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන. එහෙමනම් අපිට ලේසි මේ ගන්න. විකුණ ගන්න බැරි goods ගේනකොට ටිකක් පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕන. Check market prices. Never be too greedy. ඒකත් මම කිව්වා අර මගේ අර customer ගේ issue එකම ගත්තොත් එහෙම when I check the market price it was too good to be true. ඒට අරයා මොකද උනේ? He was too greedy for that. Right? Ensure that exporter uses reliable shipping lines. Conference line, regular lines. And very important අපි මේ අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි ඉංග්‍රීසි වලින් අපි කියනවා මේකට හොඳ යෙදුමක් තියෙනවා. Penny wise, pound foolish කියලා. Penny wise, pound foolish. ඔගොල්ලෝ ඉස්කෝලේ කාලේ ආයතන මේක අපි කරන්නේ නැත්තේ පහේ පන්ති හයේ පන්ති විතර වගේ මම දැන් නම් තියනවාද කියලා අපේ නම් කළා. දැන් ඒක සිලබස් එකේ එහෙම තියෙනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඔය එක රටවල currencies අපි convert කරනවා pence shilling pounds එකතු කරන ඒවා අඩු කරන ඒවා ගණන් අපිට ඒ දවස්වල දෙනවා. ඒ චක්‍රෙත් කටපාඩම් කරන්න ඕන. දේවරාජ් චක්‍රය වගේම ඒ චක්‍රෙත්. right? ඒක මට තාම මතකයි අපි ජූටි කාලේ අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තා. pence 12 shilling එකයි shilling 20 pound එකයි. pence 12 shilling එකයි shilling 20 pound එකයි. ඒතර එහෙමනම් එක පවුමකට pence තියෙන්න ඕන 140ක්. shilling 20 pence 12 shilling එකයි. එතකොට shilling 20 pound එකයි. 12 20 වැඩි කරාම 240ක්. අපි අපේ මිනිස්සු ඉන්නවා අපි තාමත් ඉන්නවා මේ අපි කියනවා ගම් වලත් ඉන්නවා හරි ලෝබයි මේ සතේට ලෝබයි හැබැයි රුපියලට මොනව වෙනවද කියලා අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. so penny wise penny එකක් බේරගන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා අපි හරි පරිස්සම් වෙනවා. 240න් එකක් බේරගන්න කොහොමද කියලා පරිස්සම් වෙනවා. but we are pound foolish. කොහොමද වියදම් කරන්න මොඩ එතෙන්ද මොඩයි. කොහොමද වියදම් වෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක මොඩයි. ඒ ගැන හිතන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වගේම තමයි අපි reliable shipping lines පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඕන. මේ මග කඩයක් වැටෙන ships වත් ජරා shipping lines වත් අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්න බෑ. ඒක conference line, regular line එක use කරනවා. ඒවා ගණන් හැබැයි long term අපිට අපි shape වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Ask for inspection certificates from independent parties as specified in UCP. Ask for inspection certificates. අර මම කියපු වෙලාවේ අරයා ගත්ත නම් inspection certificate එක එහෙනම් අහු වෙනවා independent party එකකින් මොනවද container එක ඇතුලේ තිබුණේ කියලා. එහෙනම් අහු වෙනවා. right? බලන්න එතන ඒකටත් ලෝභ වුණානේ. ඒකට තමයි කියන්නේ penny wise pound foolish කියලා. Avoid shipping guarantees. Shipping guarantees අපි පුළුවන් තරම් avoid කරන්න. ඒකෙන් frauds වෙනවා. Exporter. Shipping guarantees අපි කලේ නෑ නේද? කලාද නැද්ද? කලේ නෑ. ඒක මම කරනවා වෙනම. ඊගොව පාඩමේකට මම ඒකත් කරනවා. හරි. ඒක මේකට ගලප ගන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් අපි බලමු දැන් එක්ස්පෝර්ට් එක පැත්තේ. කොහොමද fraud prevention කියලා. Check the importer has to check the integrity of the exporter. Likewise, the exporter has to check the integrity, financial standing of the importer. Right? Banks should carefully scrutinize whether the DCs work. Banks balanona carefully scrutinize balanona whether the DCs workable. Unhari hidden carry thinada make it. The exporter will be able to comply with the terms and conditions of the DC. Ensure no ambiguous terms of conditions. Ensure no ambiguous terms of conditions. Ambiguous can hangich rahas terms conditions ambiguous. Use reliable forwarding agents. Same like importer. Avoid granting excessive credit period or limit to the buyer. Very important. If you are an exporter, don't grant excessive credit period or limit to the buyer. Excessive credit period can be buyer කියන්න එපා මට මාස 6කින් සල්ලි ඒවට කමක් නැහැ කියලා. You can be rest assured that you will not get the money. Right? අපි දන්නවා නම් මේ බොට් එක විකුණන්න පුළුවන් saleable items තියෙන්නේ මේ බොට් එක යට විකුණ ගන්න පුළුවන් මාසෙකින් කියලා දෙන්න ඕන credit period එක මාසෙකට. ඊට වඩා දුන්නොත් මුදලයි මිතුරයි දෙකම නැති වෙනවා. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම වෙනවා. මොකද අරගොල්ලෝ ඒවා roll කරනවා. settle කරන්නේ. Ensure sufficient insurance cover against transit risk. Better to have an agent in buyer's country. ඒක ඇත්තටම හොඳයි. Better to have an agent in buyer's country. Risk to the issuing bank. Insolvency of the applicant. If it's a DC, LC, applicant නෙමෙයි. එතකොට ගෙවන්න ඕනේ bank එක, issuing bank එක. හැබැයි issuing bank එක ගෙවුවට ඒකේ අන්තිමට ultimately we'll have to get the money from the applicant. ඒ අතරේ applicant බංකොලොත් කළා නම් insolvency of the applicant, that's the issue. That's a risk. Then fraud, sovereign and regulatory legal risk. ඒවත් issuing bank එකට බලපානවා. The goods may be damaged or lost in transit. Issuing bank to ensure the goods are properly insured. Then සාමාන්‍යයෙන් LC එක නම් අපි insurance එක issuing bank එකට consign කරන්න ඕන. But the issuing bank is the ultimate paying bank. If they are the ultimate paying banks, they want the insurance to be assigned to them. Right? Okay. Risk to the applicant or the importer. Non-delivery of goods. But ආවේ නැත්නම් fraud risk එකක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒක applicant importer effect වෙනවා. Short shipment, shipment of inferior goods, short shipment. අපි ඉල්ලනවා 10,000 units. එවන්නේ 9,500 units. කියලා document එක තියෙනවා 10,000 units කියලා. ඒවා අපි බලන්න ඕන. අපි කොහෙන්ද අපිට මේවා cover කරගන්න පුළුවන්? පොඩ්ඩක් සල්ලි වියදම් කරන්න ඕන. $500, $600 වියදම් කරලා inspection certificate එකක් අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Shipment of inferior goods, බාලවල shipping guarantees again, right? Foreign exchange risk. Comma, a fluctuation of foreign exchange rates, right? Okay. Failure of the issuing bank. Failure of the issuing bank. Risk mitigation of importer. Deal with sellers with sound reputation and track record. request for performance guarantees to avoid non-performance risk. මේවා තේරෙන්නේ නැත්නම් විතරක් මට කියන්න. මේක නැත්නම් කිව්වට පස්සේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවා. Agree on more secured payment methods. For example, DC and open account. Agree on more secured payment methods. DC and open account. Right? Buy and sell in the same currency to minimize forex risk. If you are transacting with the same currency, then there won't be any forex risk. For example, if the countries are buyers and sellers are in European countries, then they use one single currency, euro. Italy, Belgium, France, Italy, two different countries. නමුත් එකම currency එක use කරන්න. එතකොට foreign exchange risk එක නැහැ. Forward contracts. Forward contracts අපිට අරගෙන මේක මිනිම risk එක අඩු කරගන්න පුළුවන්. Ensure sufficient insurance cover against transit risk. Right? Risk to the exporter. Failure to comply with credit conditions. LCA condition comply කරගන්න බැරි නම් ඒකත් risk එකක්. Failure of or delays in payment from the issuing bank due to bank and countries. Issuing banking and payments in නැත්නම් few years back, I think this happened in early 90s. Early 90s. We had a bank in Colombo, BCCI, Bank of Credit and Commerce International, BCCI, Bank of Credit and Commerce International, a Pakistani bank. That bank was bankrupt and the Sri Lankan branch was closed down within one day. උදේ මම BCCI එකේ ඉන්නේ යාළුවන්ට උදේ කතා කරලා ගියා. අපි මං කායක පාක් කරලා යන්නේ ඒ බැංක් එක පහු කරගෙන ෆෝට් වල පයින් යන්නේ ඒතර ටික අපි එනකොට කායක පාක් කරලා යනකොට අර යාළුවා හිටියා BCCI එකේ එන්න hello කියලා good morning කියලාගෙන අපි ගියා. අවසන් එනකොට බැංකුවත් close down කරලා. operations උත් ඉවරයි. බැංක් එක bankrupt. right? ඒ risk on the lot of BCCI, we are very lucky. Ceylon Bank came forward and they took all the liabilities. Accounts of Ceylon Bank. ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉතින් යාට කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරා. අපේ ලංකාවේ කස්ටමර්ස් වලට විතර පාඩුවක් නෑ. අනිත් ගොඩක් රටවල මේක ලොකු පාඩුවක් කරනවා. right? International bank එක. Legal risk. Right? මේව මම ගොඩක් කියන්නේ නැහැ. අපි දැන් ගොඩක් කතා කරලා තියෙනවා. Risk to the advising bank, negligence in verifying apparent authenticity. Right? Authenticity එක අපි check කරන්න ඕන. ඒක අපි check කරන්න ඕන. Then risk to the nominated or confirming bank, reimbursement bank, right? Inability to obtain reimbursement from issuing bank once negotiated, documentation risk. මේක උගන්ට මච්චරම ඈතට යන්නේ නැහැ. ඊගාවට මෙන්න මේ කාලේ වැදගත් whether you are doing international trade or credit or especially for credit guys, it's very important. Another thing that can happen in international trade operations in banks is double financing or accommodation finance. Right? Double financing or accommodation finance. So you have to ensure that you will not allow double financing or accommodation financing. Right? ඒකෙන්දම තමයි කියන්නේ RMs or relationship managers of credit and trade services managers should work together to ensure that facilities reflects actual business requirements. මේක දෙන ලොකු ඉෂුව එකක් හැම බැංක් එකක මම වැඩ කරපු මම දන්නත් එක්ක අපි ක්‍රෙඩිට් එක එක විදිහකට වැඩ කරනවා ට්‍රේඩ් එක එක විදිහකට වැඩ කරනවා කවදාකවත් දෙවිලෝ එකතු වෙලා එකට කස්ටමර් විසිට්ස් ගිහිල්ලා කස්ටමර්ගේ රික්වයර්මන්ට්ස් ගැන අපි ජස්ටිෆයි කරගන්නේ නැහැ මේක හරි ඉම්පෝටන්ට් right මම නම් හැමතිස්සෙම කියන්නේ trade managers should visit the customer with the trade managers or trade officers then they understand trade can understand the trade part credit people will evaluate the credit side ultimately both of them can talk together and put a good proposal right the trade finance period should match with the trade cycle of the customer it's very important this is where a lot of credit guys are failing මේකට එක හේතුවක් තමයි customers and the competition in the market today because the credit guys have been pressurized by the bank management you have to bring customers and give loans give facilities credit එකේ ඉන්න කට්ටිය දන්නවා ඔයගලන්ට තන තියෙන pressure එක bank එකේ targets right the targets වලට යනකොට සමහර දැන් customer when he opens the LC within 2 months or 3 months time entire transaction is completed ඒක තමයි යාගේ යන්නේ trade cycle එක but he says I need facilities to settle the import loan facilities to settle the loan in 1 year ඉතින් බඩු ගෙනල්ලා බඩු ටික විකුණලා අරයට සල්ලි ගෙවන්න පුළුවන් නම් එයාට සල්ලි හම්බ වෙනවා නම් 3 months වලින් අපි ඒව චෙක් කරනකොට ඇයි අපි 1 year දෙන්නේ loan එකට ඒ කියන්නේ ඒවා කොහොම bad debts එකතු වෙනවා ඔදාක්වත් trade cycle එකට එහා පැත්තෙන් දෙන්න එපා දුන්නොත් ඕක තමයි sneezing පටන් ගන්න එක ඉවර වෙන pneumonia වලින් කිඹුමෙන් පටන් ගන්නවා pneumonia වලින් එරෝල් carefully monitor requests for drastic increases within a short period of time another very important thing for credit guys if the customer comes to you every now and then and asking for drastic increases within a short period of time be careful with that guys he's try to go up to something right accept transport documents issued by known parties accept transport documents issued by known parties unknown shipping companies වලින් issue කරනවා ගන්න එපා අද මම තව එකක් example එකක් මම පස්සේ කියන්නම් unknown shipping companies වල හරියටම frauds තියෙනවා right adopt a common sense approach to ensure that they are financing viable commercial transactions adopt a common sense approach I always repeat this common sense approach to see whether it's a viable commercial transaction you can overcome a lot of issues right accommodation finance or fraud scanning where there is no underlying transaction to which the trade documents purport to relate that is accommodation finance most common frauds involve non-existent cargoes of sugar oil fertilizer etc right in 2006 I can remember when I was in HSBC Dubai there was a party for $3 million LC $3 million coming from one of the Nigerian banks high risk country a bank HSBC staff they have overlooked all those things the basics common sense Nigerian LC $3 million round figure another issue right and the Cargo was bitumen. Bitumen. What is bitumen? It's a byproduct of petroleum. Petroleum byproduct. ඔය මේ තාර දානකොට කාපට් කරනකොට එම කළු පාට මේ වගේක් දානව නේද? දාලා තලලා ගන්නේ. ඒකට කියන්නේ bitumen. right? අපි වෙන නමක් කියනවා contractors කියන්නේ වෙන නමක්. නමුත් correct name is bitumen. ඒ bitumen කියන්නේ sure එකටම frauds වලට involve වෙන goods වගේ. right? ඒක ඔක්කොම charter party vessels වල යන්නේ. ඔය එතකොට ඔය මේ transaction එකේ ඔක්කොම දීලා තිබුණේ fraud BL එක. forge කරපු BL එක. ඉතින් බලන්න. right? ඔය බලන්න ඕන. Warning signals of accommodation finance. Warning signals of accommodation finance. Customer dealing in goods outside its normal course of business. If the customers are dealing in outside its normal course of business. Entering into transactions on abnormal terms. Long usance periods. Normally the usance period of LC is not 90 days or 120 days maximum. 180 days, 360 days can be abnormal terms. Price of goods not in line with market price. We talk about it. DC is issued to same group or related to the customer. Inter family business simple or no shipping documents. Drafts are always round figures. Our monkey were fraud take $3 million. 3 million can 3,000,000. Round figure. Everything individual description of goods very limited. Applicant under a DC transaction or and drawing of a bill is an accommodation name or it's fictitious. Applicant or the drawing of a bill is an accommodation name or it's fictitious. Amutu jatiya nang neno. Aweno. Right? Mata mataka eka customer කෙනෙක් හිටියා බම්බල පෙටියේ දැන් නැහැ. මේ කියන්නේ මොකක් අවුරුදු 30කට විතර කලින් ඒ customer ගේ business එක නම mad house පිස්සු ගෙදර husband and wife ඉන්නෙත් නිකන් mad house වගේම තමයි. right? අපිත් හිනාවේ හිටියා. හැබැයි දන්නේම නැහැ. අපි mad house එකට දාලා එමුස් දෙන්න මාරු වෙලා. right? Fictitious names ඉන්නේ. ඒවා හරි පොඩක් බලන්න ඕන. Pay more attention when companies sale turnover is less than the company's trade turnover. If the company's sales turnover is less than the company's trade turnover, again you have to be concerned. Trade with lesser developed countries. If you are dealing with lesser developed countries, you have to be careful. Right? Especially if you are dealing with African countries, you have to be careful. Right? Then another thing is double financing. Make up companies වල වෙන එකක්. හොඳට ඔළුව අරගෙන හිටියේ නැත්නම්. Double financing. A company obtaining trade finance from 2 or more banks for the same trade transaction. For the same trade transaction, they take facilities from 2 banks, 2 or more banks. We'll try to learn this with an example. It's easy, right? Importer opens site DC through bank A for the import of raw materials. Importer opens site DC through bank A for the import of raw materials. Okay? Bank A pays under DC and provide post-shipment finance to importer for 120 days against TR. Then bank A bill settle karna by providing an import finance loan for 120 days against TR. Trust receipt loan 120 days. Then එයා බොඩ් ටික ක්ලියර් කරගත්තා. එයාගේ වන්න ඕනේ 120 days. Importer uses raw materials for manufacturing the final product. දැන් ඒ ගෙනාවේ raw materials ගෙනාවේ. ඒ raw materials වලින් එයා use කරනවා to manufacture the final product. එයාගේ factory එකේ final product එකට raw materials එක use කරනවා. කරලා after 30 days finished product will be exported to its buyers and present a DA bill to bank B for finance. They have a after 30 days he finished the product manufacturing. It was he will export to his buyers on DA terms. Collection. Dala documents bank B එකට. දැන් බලන්න එතන ඒක වංචාවන්නේ. bank A එක මේ documents වලට loan එකක් දීලා තියෙන්නේ under trust receipt. Once you use this raw materials and do the manufacturing part, once you export it, you should settle the bills කියලා. ඒක අදින් export වෙන්න documents එක බැංකුවට ගේන්න එපා. අර නම් යාගේ දෙන්න එපා documents ටික. ඒකම නැතුව bank A එකට යන්න නැතුව යනවා bank B එකට. ගිහිල්ලා bank B එකෙන් යවනවා ඔලා multi bank නේ customers ලා. ඉතින් bank B එකෙන් යවනවා. අන්තිමේදී අපි බලන් ඉන්නවා සල්ලි එනකන් එයා සල්ලි අරගෙන ඉවරත් එක්ක. සමහර විටක 120 days වලින් ගෙවන්න පුළුවන් අපේ loan එක. හැබැයි ඒක වැරදි. right? අපි ගෙනාව නම් export එකත් අපින්ම වෙන්න ඕන. ඒකෙන්ද තමයි අපි කියන්නේ trade service managers should work closely with relationship managers to monitor abuse of pre-shipment finance facilities. Right? Suggested measures highly recommended. මම මේක දාලා තියෙනවා. මම මේක කැලෙන් කැලලා කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. ඔයගලන්ට කියවලා බලන්න. right? මට වෙන්නේ අද මොනවා වෙයිද දන්නේ 220 හයියෙන් වයින්ද ගත්තා. මම පුළුවන් තරම් ගිහිල්ලා අමාරුවට ඔයගලන්ට කියන්න. අපි දැන් යන් එකට the 4B වෙනකන් කළා ඒකනේ. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. And you can see the presentation also. Huh?
Yes.
Right, fine. දැන් පුතේ හයියෙන් වහිනවා මම පුළුවන් තරම් කියලා කරගන්න බැරි වුණොත් half an hour වලට මම නවත්තනවා ඊට පස්සේ අපි ඉතින් ක්විට් වෙලා half an hour එකකින් ඉන්නවා. දැන් එපා. මම අපි වෙනකන් යන්න. right? මේක අපි හිතමු සබායක් කරනකොට වැස් එක ෂේප් එකේ කියලා. ඒකින්ද තමයි අද ඉක්කොන්ඩම් පටන් ගත්තේ අරෝනාගේ. right. Last week we talked about Incoterms, right? But we couldn't say we talked about level Incoterms, right? And how Incoterms can be classified. I am not going to repeat it. And we did only one Incoterm, that is extra. And today we are going to do the second one, FOB. Okay? I think this is where we have stopped. Correct? Right. In FOB, if you have any issues, please talk and check with me. Right. Extra the manufacturer will prepare the goods and keep it in his warehouse. The buyer will come there and then buy the goods and take it to his country. Now in FOB, somebody has open mute කරන්න වෙන ඔයගලන්ගේ කෙනෙක්ගේ phone එක හරි computer එක හරි sound එක mute කරන්න. Right, thank you. Then කතා කරනකොට unmute කරලා කතා කරන්න. Then sellers FOB කියන්නේ free on board. We will put the goods on a ship. The seller will put the goods on a ship, right? So the seller's primary duty is to deliver the goods on board the vessel. Again, nave tattuwa mata patawanna ona, right? Deliver the goods on board and provide export clearance, export license, pay export taxes and fees if required. And I hope you all are having the at a glance, Incoterms at a glance sheet එක ළඟ තියාගෙන ඉන්න මම ඒකවනේ ඒක නම් ඕනම එකක් කරන්න. Then definitely it has to be if the seller has to deliver the goods on board නෙවෙයි තට්ටුව මත පටවන්න නම් he has to go through the customs. So obviously the export clearance has to be done by the seller. Very common thinking, right? Common sense and all. Common sense thinking and you can do this. Common sense thinking, right? Then provide a clean on-board receipt. Once you load the goods to the ship, you have to provide the clean on-board receipt. Pay loading cost according to the customs of the port to the extent that they are not included in the freight. If the loading costs are not included in the freight, then seller has to bear the loading cost, right? Here the most important thing, even the pre-carriage has to be done by the seller. Hey, pre-carriage can from the warehouse to the port. Obviously make a වෙන හැටියට බලවම seller එන්නේ. හැබැයි මේකෙදි buyer important duties එකක් තියෙනවා. In FOB, the buyer has to nominate the carrier. The carrier has to be nominated by the buyer and contract for carriage and pay freight. He has to nominate the carrier. He has to pay for the carriage. Now ගාස්තුත් ගෙවන්න ඕන. Pay freight and pay unloading cost. Unloading cost එකත් එයා කරන්න ඕන. Right? Then the critical points in this FOB is carriage arranged by the buyer, the risk transfer to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel nominated by the buyer. Risk transferred to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel nominated by the buyer. May Incoterms this hang the higher DDP අරුණා මනිත් හැම එකේම risk එක transfer වෙන්නේ when the goods delivered on board. විශේෂයෙන්ම sea ship consumer, right? Cost transfer from seller to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel nominated by the buyer. Cost also transfer from the seller to the buyer when the goods delivered on board. On board the vessel තමයි critical point එක. ඒ critical point එකේදී තමයි risk එක transfer වෙන්නේ buyer ට එන්නේ. එතකන් එන්නේ seller ගේ risk එක. At seller's risk, at seller's cost. And මේකේ තියෙනවා නිකන් mauve color එකකින් තියෙනවා seller's risk කියලා. main carriage එකට පටවනකම්. Up to then seller's cost, right? Again, another chart to understand. On board එකට තමයි transfer of risk වෙන්නේ. එතෙන්ට නිකන් brown color එකකින් තියෙන්නේ seller's cost and the blue color is buyer's cost, right? Okay. FOB term is used for carriage of goods by sea. term is used for carriage of goods by sea. Right? Exporters' contractual obligations is to deliver the goods packed in usual manner on board the vessel named by the importer at the name port. All 11 Incoterms, exporters' contractual obligation is to deliver the goods packed in export packing. ඒක නම් important. ඔය question එකක් එනවාමයි ඔය පැත්තෙන් අහලා. අර කොල්ලා. Right? Packing part එක exporter රන්නම ඕන. The seller has no obligation to the buyer to make a contract of carriage or of insurance. The seller has no obligation to the buyer to make a contract of carriage or the insurance. It has to be done by the insurance as well as the carriage has to be done by the buyer. FOB may not be appropriate where goods are handed over to the carrier before they are on board the vessel. Example, goods in containers. If the goods are in containerized cargo, right, then we hand over the goods to the container. A container can a carrier container. Then the seller warehouse shop warehouse carrier hand over. Then the FOB in such situation, FCA rule should be used. Instead of FOB, FCA rule should be used. Right? The next one is CFR, cost and freight. The common one, cost and freight. Right? Here, it is like FOB up to the main carriage and we have to load it. Right? What difference is FOB, the freight was paid by the buyer. Freight arrangement of the vessel and the freight was paid by the buyer. Here, the freight are paid by the seller. Seller will do the settle the freight. Now, gastu ගෙවන්නේ යා. එහෙනම් නම arrange කරන්නේ තියා. Right? එතකොට මේකේ එනවා seller's primary duties, deliver the goods on board, provide the export clearance, export license, furnish buyer with invoices, clean import document, pay loading cost. පළවෙනි එක contract for the carriage, pay freight to the name port of destination. Right? Then buyer's primary duty is to provide import clearance and pay unloading cost if not included in freight. තව එකක් තියෙනවා බයර්ගේ cost and freight නම් බයර්ගේ primary duty එකක් දෙනවා ඉස්සලා තියෙනවා import එක තමයි insurance. Insurance has to be arranged by the buyer. Seller will do only the cost and freight. Right? So the critical parts are carriage arranged by the seller, is transferred to the buyer when the goods delivered on board the vessel, cost transferred at the port of destination. Right? CFR. Now, end them round එක වැඩි වෙනවා seller ගේ cost එකේ. CFR, this term is specially used for carriage of goods by sea. Second, the exporter fulfill the same thing goes on. The seller must contract for and pay the cost and freight necessary to bring the goods to name port of destination. Right? And then insurance is an obligation of the importer. Insurance is an obligation of the importer. Insurance is an importing obligation. Seller නෙමෙයි. Cost and freight. CFR also may not be appropriate for containerized cargo. For containerized cargo, you have to use CPT rule. මෙන්න මේවා අර ඔයගලන්ට මම chart එකක් දීලා තියෙනවා chart එකේ check කරලා බලන්න. දැන් බලන්න chart එකේ CPT and CFR. CFR and CPT ඒ දෙක compare කරලා බලන්න. compare කරලා බලුවම එක වගේමයි තියෙන්නේ. Only difference is CPT is for any mode of transport, CFR is for transport by sea. Right? එතකොට containerized cargo වලට ඇයි මේක ඕන වෙන්නේ? Containerized cargo එකේදී අපි transfer මේ risk එක transfer වෙන්නේ container එකට load කරන වෙලාවට. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් තමයි අපිට මේ වෙනම Incoterm එකක් use කරන්න වෙන්නේ. Then CIF, another common one, cost insurance freight, cost insurance freight. Right? This is very much similar to CFR. Only issue is CFR cost and freight handled by the seller. In CIF, cost insurance and freight handled by the seller. The seller buyer ne CFR ke cost and freight ke insurance handle kare. Dan meke insurance එක seller තමයි කරන්නේ. Right? වැඩියම අපි දන්න business වැඩියම යන්නේ CIF වලින්. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැකලා ඇති vehicle prices කොහොම යන්නේ CIF. එහෙම නැත්නම් FOB. CFR කියලා දාන්නේ එක්ක FOB එක්ක CIF තමයි යන්නේ. Right? එතකොට CIF එකේදී seller's primary duty everything. Carriage, insurance, freight, manufacturing ඒ ඔක්කොම seller ගේ primary duty. Export clearance, arrange insurance, pay premium, everything. Then buyer's primary duty is to clearance of cargo, surrendering the DL, then provide import clearance and pay unloading charges. Unloading charges. ඒක බයගේ country එකේදී වෙන්න තියෙනවා. දැන් මෙතෙන් දෙපාන්න දැන් එන්න අපි අර ground එක එහාට මෙහාට වැඩි වෙලා යනවා. Right? On arrival එනකන් සේරම cost, insurance and freight, everything handled by them. ඒ transfer of risk වෙන්නේ on board වෙලාවට. On board වෙලාව තමයි transfer of risk වෙන්නේ. CIF, this term is specially used for carriage of goods by sea. Right? Exporter fulfills his contractual obligations when he delivers the goods packed in usual manner on board the vessel at the port of ship. He is responsible for transportation and insurance of the goods. Right? Then, seller should contract for insurance cover against the buyer's risk of loss or damage to the goods during the carriage. හැබැයි seller insurance එක කළාට buyer කියන්න ඕන එයාට මොන විදියටද මට insurance එක ඕනේ කියන එක. Very important. Right? නැත්තම් seller ට පුළුවන් insurance එකේ ලාභම එක කරන්න. දැන් අපි ඔයගලන්ගේ vehicles bike එකක් එහෙම vehicle එකකටම third party insurance දාලා දුවන්න පුළුවන් නේ. ආර දුවන්න පුළුවන්. Third party insurance minimum. But it is always better to have a comprehensive insurance cover on your vehicle. The same here. There are 3 insurance cargo clauses. Marine cargo clauses A, B, C. A can fully insured with all risk. B can there are certain risks we have covered. C can minimum risk covered. The minimum risk covered can less premium. Within CIF price at the exported a පුළුවන් minimum risk වලට cover කරලා අඩු price එකක් දෙන්න. අනේ අපි ගිහිල්ලා එල්ලෙනවා අඩු price එක අඩුයි කියලා. නමුත් බලන්න ඕන insurance එක කොහොමද කියලා. Right? Piracy cover වෙලාදී තියනවාද? They have covered piracy. Sea pirates ship එක මංකොල්ල කෑවොත් එහෙම ඒවා cover කරලා නැත්නම් අපිට සද්දයක්වත් හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ඔක්කොම cover වෙන්න ඕන. Right? under CIF, the seller is required to obtain insurance only on minimum cover. Should the buyer wish to have more insurance protection, they have to agree with seller for extra insurance arrangements. Obviously, they have to pay, but it is worth, right? CIF may not be appropriate for goods in containers, which are typically delivered at a terminal. Containerized cargo, අපි යන්නේ terminal. දැන් ලංකාවේ නම් උරුගොඩ අත තියෙනවා container yard එක තියෙන්නේ. ඒක තමයි terminal එක. උරුගොඩ අත container yard එක තමයි terminal එක. right? උරුගොඩ අත කියන එතන තියෙනවා container yard. ඒක තමයි terminal එක. නැතුව නැවේ on board දාන්නේ නැහැ. On board දාන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක බය. In such circumstances, CIP rules should be used. CIP is the most appropriate taker, right? If it is containerized cargo. CPT, carriage paid to. Correct. Carriage paid to. This term could be used for any mode of carriage. Make any mode of carriage. Exporter fulfills his contractual obligations when he delivers a goods packed in usual manner to the carrier at an agreed place. Carriage paid to. Seller must contract for and pay the cost of carriage. Carriage paid to කියලා අප ගමන් අපි දන්නවා seller must contract for and pay the cost of the carriage. Insurance paid by the seller. Insurance also paid by the seller. Right? May CPT carriage paid to up to loading. CIP, cost, carriage and insurance paid to. Carriage and insurance paid to. This is for any mode of transport. Any mode of transport. Seller must contract for and pay the cost of carriage. Carriage and insurance paid to. Seller has to pay for the carriage. Right? Contract for carriage and pay for the carriage, seller. But here, insurance has to be done by the seller. CIF minimum insurance but CIP make aluthing Incoterm 2020 clause 2020 change unless otherwise agreed, the seller must obtain at his own cost cargo insurance compliant with the cover provided by clauses A of the institute cargo clauses. Again, all risk. CIP now, cargo clause B and C minimum insurance will end the okay, good issues may January make a revise karaddi. They have put a clause to say under CIP you have to have the insurance cover should be cargo clause A, right? Full risk cover. Then CIP making right? Okay. DPU. Make a tamai me para Incoterm 2020 ke aluthing introduce kale tamai DPU. Aluthing introduce kala DPU. Isla tibuna Incoterm 2010 එකේ තිබුණා DAT කියලා. ඒ DAT එක drop කරලා they have dropped DAT and they have introduced a new Incoterm called DPU, delivered at place, unloaded. Delivered at place, unloaded. Right? Screen එක කියවන්න DPU. delivered at place, unloaded. Earlier, any other Incoterms, unloading is not specified. Either it can be done by the buyer or seller. But here, it's very specifically they have mentioned unloading has to be done by the seller. Unloading has to be done by the seller, right? In DPU, delivery at place, the seller is responsible for the moving the goods from the origin until their delivery at the disposal place. Agreed, unloaded at destination. Right? The seller is responsible for contract of carriage and insurance. This term can be used for any mode of transport. The seller must be confident to arrange the unloading of goods at the named place. Right? The seller must be confident to arrange the unloading of goods at the named place. Right? Should the parties intend the seller not to bear the risk or cost of unloading, DAP rule should be used instead. Very important point. The Ogulange, can you hear me? It's all right, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. The seller must be confident to arrange the unloading of goods at the named place. Now, goods are going from Kazakhstan to Germany. Kazakhstan to Germany. Kazakhstan කියන්නේ Russian bloc එකේ පල්ලෙහා තියෙන රට. එතකොට through Europe they can take the goods to Germany, right? In containers. Containers වල දාලා මේ අර 60 foot containers වගේ දාලා ඒ lorries යනවා. රටකින් රටකට රටවල් දෙක තුන යනවා. ගිහිල්ලා ජර්මනි වලට ගිහිල්ලා now they have to go to Germany and they have to unload the goods. ඉතින් unload කරන්න මෙහෙනම් කසකස්තාන් වලින් නම් පටවගෙන යන්න බෑනේ unloading කරන්න laborers ලා. They have to find laborers from Germany. So they have to arrange it. So the seller must be confident to arrange the unloading of goods at the named place. ඒකයි මේකේ තියෙන importance එක. Should the parties intend the seller not to bear the risk or cost of unloading, then we can't use DPU. Instead of that, we have to use DAP, delivered at place. එතකොට අපි එතෙන්ට දැම්ම unloading part එක බයගේ පැත්තෙන් කරගන්නවා. Any questions? Any questions? මේක තමයි අලුත්ම එක වෙනස් කළේ. මොකද unloading වලදී මිනිස්සු රණ්ඩු වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ රණ්ඩුව නවත්තන්න තමයි මේක දැම්මේ. මම කියන්නේ Incoterms හැමදාම revise වෙනවා every 10 years රණ්ඩු වෙන හින්දා. මොනවාරි issues. ඒ issues හින්දා තමයි international trade වල මේවා කරන්නේ. දැන් බලන්න මේක brown එක එනවා delivered at place unloaded. Unloaded එනකන්ම එනවා. Unloaded එකේ තමයි transfer of risk from seller to buyer. Right? Understood? Sorry. Now, මේකත් අර වගේමයි DPU place of destination, delivery at place of destination unloaded. DAP අර වගේමයි deliveries by any mode of transport, either sea, road, air, rail, multimodal, whatever. It is necessary to specify place of delivery or destination. May also use where more than one mode of transport is employed. May also use where more than one mode of transport is employed. Contract for carriage by seller. Contract for carriage by seller. Right? මේක unloaded එන්නේ නැහැ. දැක්කනේ loaded ticket එකක් ගාලා එතන risk එක මේ බයගේ වැඩක් තමයි unload කරගන්නේ. DPU එකේදී seller ගේ risk එක තමයි unload මේ job එක තමයි unload කරලා දෙන එක. PDP, this one I thought when they are revising the 2020 they will drop this scalar, but instead they have dropped DAT and they have dropped DAT. Give me 1 minute. Gonna amend lecture. I'll call you after 5 o'clock. Delivered duty paid. Make a usage in international trade in world not even 1%, 0% पे तो मैं बड़ा कटे क्या नहीं. तो making मेवा हरी अडुइंग बनने DDP क्या नहीं. This term signifies the maximum obligations to the exporter and the minimum obligations by the importer. Exporter, he will manufacture the goods, he will load the pre-carriage by exporter, then export custom clearance, right? ඒක කරලා ඔක්කොම කරලා ඒක අරන් එනවා ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් හදාගෙන කැරේජ් එකට පේ කරගෙන බඩු ටික අරන් එනවා ඉම්පෝට් එකේ කන්ට්‍රි එකට. ඉම්පෝට් එකේ කන්ට්‍රි වල ඉම්පෝට් ඩියුටි ගෙවන්න ඕන. ඉම්පෝට් ඩියුටි ගෙවලා අන්ලෝඩ් කරලා දෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ එක්ක ඉම්පෝට් ඩියුටි ගෙවලා අතෙන්ට ගෙනල්ලා දුන්නාට පස්සේ යාගේ warehouse එකට එයාට අන්ලෝඩ් කරගන්න විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. right? හරිම අඩුයි මේක වෙනවා. DPU කියන එක. DDP කියන එක. DDP කියන එක. වෙන රටකින් තව රටකට එනකොට import duty කොච්චර වෙනවද ඒ ඔක්කොම responsibilities seller is taking. right? දැන් මේක තමයි maximum obligations to the exporter, DDP. What is the maximum obligation to the buyer?
Extracts.
Huh?
Extracts.
Extra. Very good. Extra. Excellent. Extra to my maximum obligations to the buyer. Make the maximum obligations to the exporter. Anitya ඔක්කොම මැද තියෙනවා. Okay? Any issues? Right. මම එදා කිව්වද කියලා මට මතක නෑ. යන්න පුළුවන් ෂෝක් එකට මගේ කට වරද්ද ගන්නත් බයයි. මට මේ වැස්ස නම් ටිකක් පෑවුවා. ඉතින් අපි මෙහෙම කරමු. මං පුළුවන් තරම් අයි කියන්න බෑනේ මොනවා වේද කියලා. බ්‍රේක් එකක් ගන්න තියන් අපි නැත්නම් සිලබස් එක කවර් කරගන්න බෑනේ. Without a break we will try to finish as much as possible. Right? දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ බ්‍රේක් එකක් ඕනද? 5 minutes break එකක් ඕනද? කියන්නේ comfort break එකකට 5 minutes ඕනද? ගෙදර ගිහලා ටක් ගාලා මේ කුසියට ගිහලා මේකත් කරගන්න.
Yes, sir.
5 minutes දෙන්නද?
සර් දැන් අපි අවසානයේ මේකේ papers සාකච්ඡා කරනවා නේද?
paper එක පරණ papers එක මම දෙන්න. මම අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා දාන්නේ. ඒ විදිහට නෙමෙයි paper හදන්නේ. You will be the first lot of going to have COVID-19 type of testing. Antigen test එකේ guinea pigs වලට වෙන්නේ ඕගොල්ලෝ. Right? Then the guinea pigs will be you people because we can't have the exam physically. If we can have the exam physically, we have another 5 or 6 classes. Let's see. The young people in Parnay didn't end up. Right? About our classes, they can with the Mangogana de no assignment. Making matter okay, homework assignments willing and over assignments willing Karnaka, lazy net, lazy. Assignments willing Pilan Yaneka, a thermal lazy. Passing sugar Karaganda Pilo, whether paper Reki, Adugana, Pitrugata. Right? I think partner with data balloon over 30-70 and partner with data 30 for the assignment, 70 for the final test. Now I am thinking of make it the other way around, 70 for the assignment and 30 for the final test. Right? Assignments, of course, one essay type one, about 500 words you have to write. Right? You can upload it to the system. Now, my DIT class, all those people have uploaded to the system. Then they will give the access to me. I'm making my balala, I'm going to marks them. Updating करते हैं, right? इतना मतलब है, हम बलांग इन्ने तवा मेरा देखा कितना करना, थोड़ी अभी तवा 30 marks इतना इन्ना ना तवा assignment का multiple choice का, then you will be thorough. itu berarti ngumpulin tahu 40 marks itu teman, paling lagi baru apa ini itu memang komat question papers saya bang upload karan nang ये वाले question papers दिन में बang बिल्डिंग kita मतलब sure है ये वाले का digital लेने वा 1 page 1.5 page लेने वा ये पर what I am thinking is to limited to 5-6 lines 5-6 lines like एक question का काफी if we can have it for sub question 17 का लगाते थे A B C D के ना 5 lines 6 lines भी बना very thick to the point भी वो very right तो बुलान तब माँ हम भी नहीं थी इंदा माँ मुनवा दगी नहीं थी इंदा एक मम्मी बड़ा नुदाव करान let's see. This is how the campuses are doing now. Because I am lecturing at Kerala University. They have started this type. They have a semester. When I can understand that, I make a lecture again. I might take a physically. Uganda ekak kala de dekak kala. Uganda ekak kala ne de.
එකක් කරා සර්.
එකක් කළා. අර වුණත් එකක් කළා. ඒ කලාමයි එලා මඩු 62 ගන්න උල්ලම 62 ගන්න. දැන් අපි බලමු අපි. බලන්න එපා මම questions ටිකක් දෙන්නම්කෝ. right? දීලා assignment එක දෙන්න. assignment එක ලියන එක නම් ලියන්න බැරිය. 30 marks වලට එකක්. දීලා upload කරලා දෙන්න. assignment එක ලියන්න මම 2 weeks විතර වගේ දෙන්න. ඒතරව ගන්න කරන්න පුළුවන්. Okay. Any questions on Incoterms? Incoterms lang good. අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම එක question එකක් එනවාමයි. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දෙනවා pass papers වල බලන්න හැම එකේම Incoterms එක question එකක් එනවා. ඒකම multiple choice වලටත් Incoterm එක එනවා. right? ඔයගොල්ලන්ට එකම එක chance එකක් තියෙනවා multiple choice එක online කරනවා නම් මම දැම්මම කියන්නේ ඔයගලන්ට මේ UCP and URC you can keep it with you and write exam එකට ගෙන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ අපි ඔයවත් බලන්න මොනවද ඔයගලන්ට දෙන්න වාසි අවාසි දෙක ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලාගන්න Habai, you take my word. About 4 years back for the postgraduate class, the guys were unanimously who were, there were about 130 people in the class. Normally, every time about 130. So it's very difficult to study. UCP, URC. Can't we have the can't we keep the books and write Kela? Right? Like foreign countries. Say ළමයි ඔක්කොගම කැමතියි කියලා ඕනෑ කියලා කිව්වා. මම කිව්වා රයිට් එහෙනම් ඕගලන්ගේ මේක නෙමෙයි මම වෙනම දෙන්නම් මේ rules book එක ඔයගලන්ට දුන්නා වගේම rules book එක මම දෙන්නම් කියලා මම දුන්නා. හැබැයි මම වෙන එකක් condition එකක් දැම්මා. When you answer the questions, normally if you say as per the article 19 this is right, this is කියලා ලිව්වොත් මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. මම ලකුණු දෙනවා full marks. මම කිව්වා if I am allowing you to keep the rules with you and write, then I need the exact article with sub-article. It should be article 19b. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒ වැඩක් නැහැ නේ. ඔක්කොම agree වුණා. That year, normally my postgraduate pass rate is about 70%. ඒ අවුරුද්දේ 58 the වෙනකම් බැස්සා. I came on the day examination date එකේලෝ බලන් හිටිය පැත්තකට වෙලා I observed how you people are writing. You won't believe that most of the people have not gone through the UCP and URC. They thought, what the hell we had to go through? We can keep the book and write it. You know. But if you doesn't know where the article is, a article එක හොයන්න UCP එකේ මේ කෙරෝලේ දැන් අර කෙරෝලටත් යනවා ඊගාට URC එකත් බලනවා මොකක්ද කියලා දන්නෙත් නෑ right අන්තිමේදී මේ විනාඩි දෙකක් ලියන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රශ්නෙට උත්තරේ ගන්න පැය භාගයක් විතර ආටිකල් හොයනවා දැකලා නෑනේ ජීවිතේට දැකලා නෑ උගත් ළමයි දීලා තුනේ questions 3මාරයි 4යි එයි පොත පෙරලා ඉඳලා 60 මෙහාට දැන් පස්සේ කොහේ එපයි කියන්නේ ඒ වගේ තමයි උගලන්ට assignment එකේදී වුණත් you can keep the ඔගොල්ලෝ තියාගෙන ඉඳලා නැද්ද කියලා මට අපේ කාටවත් පේන්නේ නැහැ. ගෙදරින් දාන්න කරන්නේ assignment එකේ. එතකොට මේ කොහොමද කරන්නේ මේ කියන්න පුළුවන්. If you don't know where the article, you won't be able to finish it because multiple choice assignment එකට දෙනවා නම් multiple choice assignment එකක් දෙන්න අපි agree වුණා. It will be about I'll give you about 40 questions. Out of 40, you can select 25. We'll select 25. Out of 40, you can select 25. The option is, right? එතකොට දෙන්නේ පැය භාගයක් විතර වගේ. පැය භාගයෙන් online ඉවරයි. ඔයා දැම්මා ඔයා මාක් කළා ටක් ගාලා answer script එකේ වෙනම එනවා ඔයගලන්ට ඔයා මාක් කළාට පස්සේ auto correct වෙනවා. මොකද මම load කරලා තියෙන්නේ answer එක. ඒක auto correct වෙලා යනවා. But you won't be getting the marks, but it will be auto correct. එතකොට මේ පැය භාගයෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද අරක රිෆර් කර පැය භාගයට 25ක් කියන්නේ 1 minute වලින් වල ගන්නවා එක question එකක් පොත කියවන්න ගියොත් පුළුවන්ද බෑ හැබැයි ඔයාලට ෂුවර් නැති එකක් තියෙනවා නම් ටක් ගාලා පොත පෙරලා දන්නවා නම් negotiations yes article 12 කෙලිම පෙරළුවා උඩට ගත්තා හදා ගන්න පුළුවන් ඒකින්ද කරුණා කරලා මේ දවස්වල පාඩම් කරන්න අර පාඩම් නොකර නම් ඒ කියන්නේ බෑ ගේම් එක යන්න බෑ right? හරි මම බලන්න බා මම පුළුවන් තරම් ලේසි විදියට දෙන්න බලන්න. කවුනේ ළමයි ටික හින්දා. But it is beyond my control. Let's see. Then එකක් Incoterms වල මට අහගන්න ඕන, ඕගොල්ලන්ගෙන් දැනගන්න ඕන. මම ඒක කළාද කියලා මට ෂුවර් නෑ. මම කෝ place of Incoterm in the Incoterm අපි ලියන්න ඕනේ කියලා. Whether it's origin or destination. ඒක මම දැන් කියලා දුන්නාද කොහොමද කරන්නේ කියලා. Origin the destination කියලා. There are 11 Incoterms. ඒකෙන් කටපාඩම් කරලා තියාගන්න ඕන කොහෙද වෙන්නේ කියලා. මේක origin the destination ද කියලා. Now for example, X work origin, FCA origin, CPT destination, CIP destination, DPU destination, DAP destination, DDP destination. ඉතින් කොහොමද මේක කටපාඩම් කරලා තියාගන්නේ? ලේසිම ක්‍රමය තමයි ඔයාලගේ බුක් එකේ ලියලා තියාගන්න. All the F terms, capital F. What are the F terms? Tell me. What are the F terms?
FCA, FAS, FOB.
FCA, FAS,
FOB.
FOB.
All the F terms plus X work. X work obviously should be origin. Origin again X work thing again. All the F terms are origin. All the F terms are origin. And all the others are destination. All the F terms and X work are definitely. All the F terms and X work origin. All the others are destination. And there are so CIF kilawat Incoterm again destination. FOB kilawat origin. All the F terms try origin again. If I ask you one question like this, මේ වගේ question එකක් අද මම හදුවා කැම්පස් එකට. ඒකේ මට මේක මතකයි. ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙත් මේ ඔයාලගේ සිස්ටම් එකට තමයි ඔන්ලයින් එක්සෑම් එක තියන්නේ යන්නේ. නැත්තම් බෑන පොතේ මේක මොනවා වේද කියලාද කවුරුත් දන්නේ නැහැ. බොරල්ලත් වහලානේ. right. මම දැන් කියනවා මම කියන්නේ නැහැ කවුද import කවුද export කියලා. Right? There are two parties. මට උත්තර දෙන්න ඕගොල්ලෝ. There are two parties. One is in Colombo. Other one is in London. Other one is in London. කවුද import කවුද export දන්නේ නැහැ. දැන් මම when I mention the Incoterm, you have to tell me which party is the importer, which party is the exporter. Which party is the importer, which party is the exporter. Right. CIF London. CIF London. CIF London කියලා આવොත් කවුද importer කවුද exporter? CIF මොකද place in the Incoterm? Origin or destination? Destination. එහෙනම් කියන්න බෑ. Who is the importer and who is the exporter?
Exporter London.
Exporter London.
Importer Colombo.
Right. Any other answers? CIF London.
Importer London,
Importer London.
exporter other country,
Exporter Colombo.
Colombo.
That one thing correct. ඉස්සලගේ වැරදි. මොකද ඒක destination යන්නේ. destination කියන්නේ import නේ. Destination කියන්නේ import. එහෙනම් London, whoever in the London is the importer, whoever in Colombo is the exporter. X for Colombo. X for Colombo. Where is the importer? Where is the exporter?
Colombo.
Huh?
Importer London.
exporter Colombo.
Exporter Colombo. Origin ne? Exporter Colombo. And importer London. Right? Then make your theme. Exporter Colombo. FOB Colombo.
export Colombo, import
Importer London.
Importer London. Very good. Very good. දැන් ඔයාලට තේරෙනව නේද? දැන් කටපාඩම් කරලා නෙමෙයිනේ කරන්නේ. අර මං කිව්ව gimmick එක. Right? All the F terms are origin and expert and all the others are destination. මේක කිව්වොත් එහෙම DPU London. DPU London.
import London, export Colombo.
Importer London, exporter Colombo.
Importer London.
Importer London.
Importer London, exporter
Colombo.
Colombo. Very good. දැන් හරි. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවා. right? දැන් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවා. දැන් තව එකක් මම තව question එකක් අහන්න එක කියලාම ඉන්න අනිත් පාඩමට යන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා what are the four Incoterms that are involved in carriage by sea and inland waterways?
FOB, CIF.
Right. FOB, CIF.
CFR, FS.
CFR.
CFR and FS. Three alongside. කොහොමද ලකුණු පහක question එකකට වග දුන්නොත් ආසද?
පුළුවන් සර්.
ඔය වගේ එකක් දෙන්න එපාද? මේසි වැඩි නේද?
නෑ ඒ වගේ හොඳයි.
ඒ වගේ හොඳයි නේද?
ඔව් සර් එහෙම දෙන්න.
The bribery. Hurry. Then tell me what are the 7 Incoterms that is for any mode of transport? Angle no කියන්න බන්ට. Okay, start with expert.
CPT.
CPT.
CIP,
DDP.
DD.
Hmm.
DPU. DAP.
එකපාර කියන්න පුළුවන්ද? Expert, FCA, CPT, CIP, DPU, DAP, DDP. ඔය DDP කියලා ලියනකොට ලියන්න එහෙම එපා. DDT කියලා සමහර මට ප්‍රශ්න පත්‍රයේ එන උත්තර එනවා. DDT කියන්නේ මේ මදුරන්ට ගහන ඒවා. එහෙම ලියනවා. DDT කියලා එන්කටම නැහැ. මේ අර මෙලතියන් මදුරන්ට ගහන්නේ. නගර සභාවෙන් ඇවිල්ලා විදින්නේ අන්න ඒවා දුම් ගහන්නේ. හරිද? ඒවත් ලියනවා ළමයි DDT කියලා. ඒවෙම ලියන්න එපා පාඩම් කරලා තියාගන්න. right. money make it annang the but අපෝරක් මේකෙන් exit ලා යන්න වෙන්නේ මට පේන්නේ. Right. Give me 2 minutes පන්ටක් ගාලා මේකෙන් exit වෙලා එන්නම්. Fine. Here we go. The other topic we are going to discuss is import-export finance. Now we have done a lot. We have covered what is international trade and what are the payment methods, and the risk involved, in the Incoterms, various types of LCs. ඔයගේ ගොඩක් අපි දැන් කරනවා. දැන් තව එකක් අපිට යන්න ඕන import-export financing. Import-export financing මේකෙදි තමයි අපි අර facility sum එක කරන්නේ. Facility sum එක කරන්නේ මෙන්න මේකේ. And again, I'm going to have a small issue of normally when I am teaching the facility sum, I need the whiteboard to write from this end to the other end. Right? But I will try to guide you. Then most probably the next class I will do the sums. Right? If sums are the books හරි A4 papers එක තියාගෙන ලෑස්ති පිට ඉන්න ඕන. මම කියන විදිහට ඇඳගෙන යන්න. ඒතර මම මේ ඉඳන් කොලේක අඳින්නම්. ඕගොල්ලෝ ඒ පැත්තටම ඇඳගෙන එතකොට අපිට ඉගෙන ගන්න පුළුවන්. right? හැබැයි ඉතින් මේ පාර ඕගොල්ලෝ lucky මට ටික අමාරු සම් මම දෙන්නේ නැහැ. මම ළමයි අමාරු දාන්න. පුළුවන් තරම් මම සම්ස් ටිකක් කරලා ඔයගන්ට homework දුන්නාට පස්සේ then you can do and you can ask me the issues if you have any. Right? Right. The financing options in international trade you can categorize for non-DC backed transaction. Non-DC backed transactions can be collection bills. Right? Then DC backed transactions, LCBs. How we are financing. Then inventory or receivable financing. Inventory or receivable financing. ඔය තුන අපි කරන්න ඕන. ඒකට එනවා factoring. Open account transactions. කොහොමද factoring කරන්නේ? Factoring උගල අහලා තියෙනවා. Receivable financing, you know, invoice financing කියලා අපි කියන්නේ. Invoice financing හැම බැංක් එකක්ම කරනවා. LC bills අපි finance karna, collection bills finance karna. Why it is so important, the financing? This is the main part why the customers are coming to the bank. Most of the customers are coming to the bank to get financing. Most of the customers are coming to the bank to get financing. If you have enough money in your hand, then why do you want to come to the bank? And if you know the other party, you can ask them to send the goods in on open account, right? And then once you receive the goods, do the payment if you have money. But the issue is 98% of the customers, trade finance customers, they don't have money. The full money they don't have. So they come to the bank asking for facilities. Facilities to settle the bills. Import as well as exports. Right? Exports not to settle the bills, to discount the bills and get the money as early as possible. Right? So whatever the way, they need financing support from the banks. That is why they are coming to the banks. Then this part is going to be very, very useful to any bank who are in branch banking, in branches, if you are doing credit for those people, even the RMs. I know there are a few RMs in your batch. Please open up your mouth and give me the feedback, right? When I'm continuing, when I'm going forward, right? Please join me. Please join me, because your experience and your knowledge is very, very important, right? ඒකෙන්ද ඔගොල්ලෝ කතා කරලා මේ discussion එකට join කරලා අපි yeah, right? Then when when a customer comes to you and for facilities, when a customer comes to you for facilities, he will come and tell you, sir, I want to do some imports and I want some facilities. So what are the basic questions you will ask the customer to enable you to structure the trade finance facility, right? So one thing is basically by a simple set of questions, you will try to get as much as possible, right? You will ask, what do you sell and what is involved in producing it? The bank will ask that. I will normally අහනවා ඔගොල්ලෝ මොනවද විකුණන්නේ? එතකොට එයා කියනවා I'm selling shoes, right? I want to export shoes. I want selling shoes. Selling shoes now, then you have to ask, are you a manufacturer? Yes, I am a manufacturer. Then you have to ask, what about the raw materials? Heel කොහෙන්ද ගන්නෙ, right? එතකොට උඩ සපත්තු උඩ කෑල්ල කොහෙන්ද ගන්නෙ, studs කොහෙන්ද ගන්නෙ, lace කොහෙන්ද ගන්නෙ, raw materials තියෙනවා, right? What is involved in producing it, right? Then who do you buy from and sell to, and on what terms? Who do you buy from? From where are you importing those leather? Is it you are buying from local market or you are importing from India? You are buying from local market or you are importing from India, right? And then once you finish the manufacturing, to whom you are selling? Are you going to sell it to a local market or you are going to export it to which countries, right? Then you have to ask, on what terms? On what terms you are selling? Is it DP or DA? You know, all those things you have to ask, those simple questions. That is not the only basic, those are the basic questions, right? So in order to evaluate the type and amount of trade facilities you need, then you have to ask more detailed discussions, right? Then you have to go on asking them, who are your suppliers? Who are your suppliers? In India, India වලින් එන්නේ. India වල කොහෙන්ද? Gujarati, එහෙම නැත්නම් Mumbai වලින් එන්නේ, right? කොච්චර කලින්ද කරන්නේ? යා අපි ඕවා අහන questions. නැතුව මේ මිනිහෙක් facility එක ගන්න ආපු ගමන් right වාඩි වෙන්න කීයක්ද ඕනේ? 50 million. ඉන්න 50 million දෙන්නම් කියලා දෙන්න බෑ, right? What payment method you are importing? Are you importing on DA terms or are you importing under LCs, usance LC, the side? What are the amounts, right? Period of credit, etc. Right? You're getting 30 days DA, 60 days DA, period of credit, supply credit. Then our customer, what is the production cycle? Then your customers, you have to ask their production cycle. What do you mean by the production cycle? from the time you import the raw materials, right? From the time you order the raw materials, and by the time you, up to the time you finish the production and export the production and receiving the money. ඒක ටික ඔක්කොම අපිට production cycle එකට එනවා. ඒතර manufacturing cycle එක එනවා up to the export, then you have to wait for either 1 month or 2 months to get the money, depending on the payment time, right? So you have to check those things. Then you have to see to whom you are going to sell it. Who are your buyers? Once you finish the manufacturing, who are your buyers? What payment method? If collection, what percentage on DP or DA? Which transport documents are used? Is it what do you call this? BL ද BL එකක්ද එහෙම නැත්නම් යාවේ බිල්ද ට්‍රක් එකක යවනවද ඒ ඔක්කොම බලන්න ඕන. Where are the buyers located and how soon can the documents be delivered to them via collecting bank? ඒ ඔක්කොම check කරන්න ඕන. Where are the buyers located and do we have any corresponding banking relationship with those countries, right? ඒ ඔක්කොම බලලා තමයි අපි දෙන්න ඕනේ. Then the concept of trade cycle. This is very, very important, especially if a customer is coming to you to have trade finance facilities. One main thing we always forget is to check the trade cycle. Trade cycle එක කියන එක මම කියවනේ හිතුව ගමන් කියනවා කියලා trade cycle එකට යන්නේ 3 months වලින් ඔක්කොම ඉවරයි. But they want import facility in 80 days or 8 months. මම ඉන්න customers ලා 8 months උත් ඉල්ලනවා. එතන මම ඒගොල්ලන්ට කිව්වම ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ trade cycle එක 3 months. So you are getting the money within 3 months. So why you are asking for 8 months? No. Commercial bank is giving. Bank of Sloan, they are giving me 7 months. Commercial bank is giving me 8 months. ඔන්න මට දෙන උත්තර. Sampath bank is giving 7 months. So either you give me this money, give me this facility for 8 months, or I'm happy with commercial bank. One of මෙහෙම customers කියනවාද නැද්ද කියලා මට කියන්න බලන්න ඕගොල්ලෝ. කටවහන් ඉන්න එපා. ක්‍රෙඩිට් කරන කට්ටිය කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ තමයි දන්නේ. කෑෂ් කරන කට්ටිය නම් දන්නේ.
කියනවා.
එහෙම කියනව නේද?
ඔව් සර්.
ඔව්. මොකද පුතේ මොන බැංක් එකේද?
සෙලන් බැංක් එකේ.
සෙලන් බැංක් එකේ. ඒ මිනිස්සු කියන්නේම ඔය වෙන බැංකයක් මොකද පටලවලා දෙනවා. එතකොට ඔයාට දීලා තින්නේ you are in the credit department.
Yes sir.
Yes. Now you have suppose you are an RM. The bank has given you a target. ඔයාව මරාගෙන කන්න යන බැංකුවේ නේ මේ ටාගට් එක කො ටාගට් එක ඉතින් මොනවද කරන්නේ ඔයා යනවා ටාගට් එකට. You forget about the trade cycle. අර මිනිහා මාස 3න් සල්ලි අරගෙන මාස 8ක් වෙනකොට ඒ මිනිහා බංකොලොත් වුණොත් එහෙම අපිට සත්‍යයක්වත් සම්පූර්ණ. right? ඔන්න ඔතනයි අපි වරද්ද ගන්නේ. If you are when you are මම post graduate එකේ මම මේක ටිකක් detail කරනවා. මොකද post graduate එකේ ඉන්නේ ඔක්කොම manager level එකේ කට්ටිය ඉන්නේ. manager, assistant manager, officer level එකේ කට්ටිය ළමයි ඉන්නේ. ඒක ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැනගන්න ඕන කොහෙන්ද ඔයගොල්ලෝ උඩ ඉන්නේ කියලා. එක එක මම DABF එකේ මම මෙච්චර ඩීටේල් එකක් නැහැ. මොකද වැඩක් නැහැ නේ ඔක්කොම ස්කූල් ලීවර්ස්ලා ඉන්නේ. එතකොට ඔයගොල්ලන් එහෙම නෙමෙයි. මම ටේලර් මේඩ් යන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ courses. එතකොට මේක අපි හොඳට දැනගන්න ඕන ට්‍රේඩ් සයිකල් එක කියන එක. කවදාකවත් වෙන බැංක් එකකට කතා කරලා ඒක දෙන කොහොම පිළිගන්න එපා. If you have any friends in commercial bank, what you can do is you can double check with him. Definitely they will say, oh, අපේ මිනිහට දෙන්නේ මිනිහා අපිනුත් කියනවා ඔයාගොල්ලෝ දෙනවයි කියලා කියනවා. That is the way the customers are behaving. Right? This working capital is provided by the owners or shareholders of the business or from the bank facilities. So they need working capital for wages, purchase of material, and various things. Right? The working capital finance trade cycle. Trade cycle will be financed by the working capital, which can be defined as a time period between the start of the supply chain, ordering of raw materials, goods, and the receipt of payments from corresponding sales. Right? Okay. In international trade, the trade cycle is much longer than the domestic trade. Obviously. In domestic trade, the trade cycle is shorter. But international trade, the trade cycle is much longer. Can you give me a reason for that? ගොඩාක් අහස පොළොව පටලවන්න හිතන්න එපා. බොහොම simple.
Shipping time is there.
Shipping time, you know, these are there. Very good. What's your name, brother?
Channel.
Channel. From Telangana?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Shipping times, you know, and manufacturing time. Manufacturing time make a local, you know, namuth araga shipping time make a, you know, ordering, shipping, you know. However, in most of the cases, it is less than 180 days. So when you are dealing with international trade, if you are giving trade facilities, ensure that you are giving the facilities for less than 180 days. This is the main reason why I am asking people like Shanali and all, if you are visiting customers to give facilities, please take one of the trade guys also with you. Trading in a girl can carry, boy can carry, manager can carry, senior officer can carry. You can get a better idea of that guy's transaction, because you are better than you. The trade guy knows about what is happening, but trade guy doesn't know how to fix the facilities. That is your job. So you can discuss and then do the correct thing. Right? Trade and credit can හැමදාම මරා ගන්න පාර්ෂන් දෙකක්. එක්කනට එක්කන ඇඟිලි දික් කර ගන්නවා. ඔය මුකුත් නෑ දෙගොල්ලෝ මිගතුලා වැඩි කරනවා. The difference between post shipment and pre shipment finance. There are two types of financing in international trade. One is post shipment, other one is pre shipment. Post shipment finance is money required to finance the exporter between dispatch of goods and receipt of payments. Right? Now, when you dispatch the goods after manufacturing, it will take about, sometimes it might take about 1 month or 2 months to get the money. If it is 30 days DA or 60 days DA, you will be getting the money after 2 months, 2.5 months time. Right? එතන ගිහිල්ලත් තමයි යන්නේ. ඩොකියුමන්ට්ස් එක ගියාට පස්සේ DA එක පටන් ගන්න ට්‍රිගර් වෙන්නේ. එතකොට ඒ වෙනකම් මෙයාට ඉන්න බෑ. he needs money to settle the light bill, electricity bill, water bill, telephone bill. You have to pay taxes, you have to pay wages, salaries. You need money. So you will come to the bank and ask the bank to negotiate the bills and give you immediate cash. Pre-shipment finance is the money required to finance the business between the commencement of the manufacturing process and the dispatch of goods. Right? That means to finance the raw materials. That is pre-shipment financing. Before the shipment of final product. That is pre, after, post. Then another thing is when you're financing, when you give financing, on the various types of financing, we have to talk about with recourse to the customer and without recourse to the customer. With recourse and without recourse finance. Right? If finance is provided with recourse, then the exporter is legally responsible for repayment of that money. If finance is provided with recourse to the customer, with recourse to the exporter, then the exporter is legally responsible for payment of that money. Right? Right.
So what is mean by recourse?
Pardon?
What is mean by recourse?
Recourse. Recourse. Right? With recourse, the exporter is legally responsible for payment of that money. Now, for example, if you are discounting a export bill, if you are discounting an export bill, it has to be always with recourse to the customer, with recourse to the exporter. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ෂුවර් නෑනේ සල්ලි හම්බ වෙයිද නැද්ද කියලා. බැරි වෙලා අපි කස්ටමර්ට සල්ලි ඩිස්කවුන්ට් කරලා දෙනවා. bila discount කරලා. But if something goes wrong, if he doesn't get the money from the buyer, then the customer has already indemnified the bank that he will pay the money back. Customer with recourse to the customer. Without recourse, the exporter is not legally bound. Exporter is not legally bound. If a bank is negotiating the bills, so that means they negotiate, means they give value to the exporter. Right? To give that value to the exporter, they will check if the documents are compliant with the terms and conditions of the LC. If the documents are compliant with the terms and conditions of the LC, yes, they will negotiate the bill and pay the money. The risk negotiating, bank is taking the risk. Right? If something goes wrong, if the issuing bank come back with some discrepancies, thank God, you are going to have it. The exporter will tell you, sorry sir, I have asked you to negotiate, you have negotiated. Negotiation means giving value without recourse to me. Without recourse to me. So if you have given me value, thank you very much. Bye bye. UCP 600 එක බදාගෙන අපි බුද්ධිය ගන්න තමයි වෙන්නේ. ඒකෙන්ද තමයි every trade customer, before we give them a facility, generally your bank, Ceylon Bank, මන් දන්නවා සෙලානකේ තියෙනවා. සෙලානකේ දෙක තියෙනවා මම කියන්නේ නැහැ. When you are giving facilities to trade customer, you will ask them to sign a trade finance general agreement. That's the collateral. It's the additional collateral, trade finance general agreement.
Yes.
Once for all, when we grant the facilities, we will ask the customer to sign. Normally it is about 12, 13 pages booklet. Okay. Everything under the sun and moon, we have put it there. Even if you have finance without recourse to the customer, even if you have finance without recourse to the customer, the customer has recourse to the bank. Umbrella gahano. Right? Again, me rahande ata dena ඕනෑම විදියකට ෆයිනෑන්ස් කරපු ඒවා කස්ටමර් බාර ගන්නවා කියලා තමයි අරගෙන තියෙන්නේ. නරක වැඩක්. නමුත් ඔක්කොම බැංකු කරනවා. එහෙම නැතුව අපි ජීවත් වෙන්න බෑනේ අපිට. ඒතකොට ඒක තියෙනවා. ඒතර මේ ට්‍රේඩ් ෆයිනෑන්ස් ජෙනරල් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකේ තියෙනකොට සමහර වෙලාවට මම අනන්ත බැංක් කේසස් වලට උසාවි කියලා තියෙනවා. උසාවි ගියාම සමහර කට්ටිය දැන් ඕගොල්ලෝ වගේ කට්ටිය බිස්නස් කරන්න ගියා නම් ඔයාලට දැන් තියෙන දැනුම ඇතිනේ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැන් කියනවා under article 12 UCP 600 no worries. Under 7 and article 12 negotiation means without responsibility, without recourse from our part. ඒක බැංකුව බලා ගන්න ඕන. ඊළ ලෝයර්ටත් කියනවා. ලෝයර් කේස් එක ආගියු කරනවා ඒක උඩ. right? එතකොට මම පැත්තකින් නම් කරන්නේ බැංකේ කස්ටමර් අස්සම් කරපු මේ මොකද ඒක කියන්නේ ට්‍රේඩ් ෆයිනෑන්ස් ජෙනරල් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එක අරගෙන මෙයාට සබ්මිට් කරනවා Your Honor, I am submitting this document which has been signed by the customer. ඒක බලුව ගමන් එතනින් එහාට අර ආගියුමන්ට් එක විසිකලා. ඒ ඉතින් යා එග්‍රී වෙලානේ. වෙලා තියෙන්නේ ඒ ඔය ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එක සයින් කරගන්න හැම කෙනෙක්ට මම මේ කියන්නේ මේ විභාගයට එනේව නෙමෙයි. ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දැන් day to day life එකට ඕන කරන්නේ. right? day to day life එකට ඕන කරන්නේ. එතකොට සයින් කරගන්න ගත්තාම ඔක සයින් කරගන්නෙත් අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අර ෆැසිලිටි එක ඇප්‍රූව් වෙච්ච වෙලාවේ security documentations ගන්නවනේ. එතකොට මේකක් දෙනවා. ඒ වෙලාවට ශානෙලි මතක නේද? කස්ටමර් මාර හිනාවකින් ජොලි ඉන්නේ ඒ ෆැසිලිටි එක ඇප්‍රූව් නේ. දෙන ඕන එකක් සයින් කරනවානේ.
ඔව් සර්.
පස්සේ බෑ. පස්සේ කරන්න ගියොත් ලෙඩේ ඒ වෙලාවට ඊට කලින් දුන්නත් ඔක කියවනවා. Mr. Perra, your facility has been approved. Now only you have to sign the security documentation. Right, madam? I'll come to the bank. ආවා කොයිද කියලා නම් මට ඔයාට තියෙන පොලේ දිගහැරලා මෙතන ඉනිෂියල් එකක් දාන්න මෙතන ෆුල් ස්කේල් දාන්න මෙතන මේ පේජ් එක දාන්න එච්චරයි. පේජ් එක පෙන්වන්න විතර ඕනේ. අර වලල්ල බිබි තියලා පොල් ගහ පෙන්වුවම වලල්ල දාන ගහේ නගින්න වගේ තමයි මිනිහා අස්සම් කරලා ඉවරනවා. එයා දන්නේ නැහැ උගේ ඩෙත් සෙන්ටෙන්ස් එක තමයි අස්සම් කළේ මිනිහම කියලා. හැබැයි ඕගොල්ලෝ දැනගන්න ඕනේ as bankers කොයිලාටද මේක දෙන්නේ කියන්නේ. right? With recourse and without recourse are important. Legally without recourse තමයි negotiations and LC negotiations clean එක. හැබැයි ඒත් අපි අර වගේ document එකකින් එකත් අපි cover කරගන්න බලමු. Any questions? Right. Then types of short-term facilities available to exporters. Loans of overdraft. Loans of overdraft secured by an assignment of the exporter's credit insurance policy. මේකම ස්ලෙසික් පර්සිස් කන වෙනම කරනවා. ඒක කළාම ඔන්න මේකට මේ කරගන්න. Most of the for exports we can take credit insurance policies. Right? ඒක බැංකුවට assign කරලා තියෙනවා නම් that will be an additional collateral to the bank. Bank special export finance schemes එක banks වල එක special export finance schemes තියෙනවා. රටේ නැති නම් වලින්. Right? Discount of collection bills, bill advance. Right? Discount of collection bills. හරි පරිස්සමෙන් මම නම් කරන්නේ නැහැ මම කරන්න මම හරි බයයි. හොඳම customers ට විතරයි අපි කරන්නේ. Because there's no guarantee or assurance that you will get the money in it. Collection. Right? Then acceptance credit, yes. Acceptance credit මේක මම ලෝල කරන එක. ලෝල කරන එක. කවුරුහරි customer කෙනෙක්ගේ users bill එකක් තියෙනවා නම් acceptance customer acceptance කළාට පස්සේ bill එක accept කරලා පස්සේ bank එකත් accept කරලා පස්සේ export එකේ පැත්තෙන් මම export එකෙන් පස්සෙන් ගිහලා අහනවා ඔයාලට සල්ලි ඕනද මේක discount කරලා දෙන්නද discount කරලා දෙන්නද මොකද මට risk එකක් ඇත්තෙම නැහැ. Issuing bank එකේ they have accepted the bill and informed me that on the 60th day that they will pay. Only thing I have to check is the country risk and the bank risk. If the bank is good, the country is good, I am ready to discount. මට අර මාස දෙක යනකොට බර ගානක interest එකක් හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. Acceptance print එක. සමහර customers ලා ඉන්නවා සල්ලි තියෙන ඒගොල්ලෝ කියනවා නෑ ඕනේ නෑ කියලා. අපි ඕන වුණොත් කියන්නම් කියලා. අයියෝ ගන්නකො මේ අරගෙන වෙන එකකට ගන්න පුළුවන් නේ. කොහොම හරි දෙන්නමයි මම නම් බලන්නේ. මොන මේවා තමයි business. Credit department එකට. Right? මේවා තමයි business පුළුවන් තරම් මේවා දෙන්න ඕන. Secured. Guaranteed by a bank. Negotiations of bills drawn under this is without recourse to the customer, but that's another short-term finance available to exporters. Retro species, we discuss it. Giving an advance to the exporter, pre-shipment finance cycle, break up your facility. Packing credit loans, that also we give packing credit loans. Right? Packing credit loan එක pre-shipment finance එකක්ද post-shipment finance එකක්ද?
Free shipment.
That is a pre-shipment finance. That's a pre-shipment finance. Right? Then export factoring and invoice discounting. Right? Invoice discounting exporters at the end facility and factoring. ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ bank factoring කරනවද? චලාන් කරනවා. නේද? Invoice financing and factoring කරනවා නේද ඔයගොල්ලෝ?
ඔව් සර්.
කරනවා. Bank of Sloan? Bank of Sloan? How are you doing? My class එකේ 50% Bank of Sloan. එක්කෙනෙක්වත් කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. ඉස්සලා කතා කරලා පුතා කොහෙද? Pre-shipment finance කිව්වේ පුතා. What is the bank? උත්තරේ දුන්න exit ලා දන්නේ නැහැ. කවන්නේ. Right? Most of the banks they are doing invoice financing and factoring. Most of the banks. Right? Right. Then for the banks, normally the banks gives its control of underlying goods in a trade transaction as a method of mitigating the risk. Right? අපිට බලන්න දැන් මේකේ trade transaction තියෙන අපි රුකුම දේ තමයි security එක ගන්න අපේ goods, right? How we can mitigate the risk? There are three methods of making goods available as security. One is mortgage, second one is hypothecation, third one is pledge, right? One is mortgage, second one is hypothecation, third one is pledge. Now, mortgage of goods, goods by creating a legal equitable interest in property, right? Make a හොඳ මේකක් නෙමෙයි. දැන් ඕගොල්ලන් ගොඩාක් වෙලාවට ගන්න එකක් තමයි බැංක්ස් වලින් ගන්නවා. මම ඒක එච්චරම හොඳයි කියලා කියන්නේ නැහැ, වැඩක් නැහැ. But Shanali, I think you people, you are asking the trade guys to give you an by the way, mortgage on book debts, stocks and book debts. ගන්නව නේද?
ඔව් සර් ගන්න.
ගන්නවා. mortgage of book, stocks and book debts. අපි ගන්නවා. right. ඒ දුර හරි හොඳයි කියලා එන්න මේවා පුරුදු වෙන්න කතා කරන්න. කතා කළාම තමයි අපිට එන්නේ. දැන් මෙතෙන්දී අපි mortgage of stocks කියන්නේ what is that? Goods, ne? We are keeping the goods in a warehouse and we mortgage to the bank. Now, for example, if the customer, if the trader, if the importer is importing bee onions and potatoes, bee onions and potatoes, මේ පිටකොටේ ලොකු මුදලාලි කෙනෙක් නාඩාර කෙනෙක්. එතකොට ඒ මුදලාලි ලොකුට ගේන්නේ කන්ටේනර්ස් පිටින් ගේන්නේ. පොඩි කට්ටිය නෙමෙයි පිටකොටේ ලොකුම කට්ටිය. ගෑනලා stocks and book debts අපිට දෙනවා security එකට. stocks mortgage කරලා තියෙනවා බැංක් එකට. ඒක legal document එකක්. You have to pay lot of legal charges. අපේ බැංක් එකේ lawyers ලවක stocks and book debts අදලා legal charges අරගෙන ඊගොඩ land register කරලා එන්න සෙල්ලමක් දාලා ගන්නවා. දැන් එතකොට කාටද mortgage කරලා තියෙන්නේ මේ goods ටික? බැංක් එකට. mortgage කළාට පස්සේ කාටද ඒක අයිති?
බැංක් එකට.
බැංක් එකට අයිති වුණාට බැංක් එකට අයිති කියලා දැන් අර මුදලාලි මේව ටික මාකට් එකට විකුණනවද නැද්ද?
විකුණනවා.
අපි මේ mortgage එකක් කියන බලන් ඉන්නවා. Because in nature, the goods by their nature, it is transitory. Transitory කියන්නේ එක තැනක තියන්න බෑ goods. goods එක තැනක තිබුණොත් බොම්බාලේ උනේ අලයි දෙකම නරක් වෙලා කුණු වෙලා යනවා. මට කියලා මොක බදාගෙන ඉන්න බෑ. මං එක තිබ්බ බොරු වැඩ. It's a piece of paper. ඔක කතා කළාම අපි ගන්නවා. ඔය මම දන්නේ ඇයි ගන්නෙ කියලා අපි ලොකුට අරගෙන තියාගන්නවා. security එක මොකද්ද? stocks and book debts. සමහරවිට stock inspection ගියාම stocks වල මෙලෝදියක් නෑ. right මම කතා කරන්නේ ඒ ගැන. ඉතින් ඒකෙන්ද මේක it is not a good security. The legal cost and everything is legal charges මේක design කරන්න යන ඒවා execute කරන්න යන විදිහ ඔක්කොම වෙනවා. ආදී. එහෙමත් කරලා මේක හොඳ security එකක් නෙමෙයි. right? Another one is hypothecation. Hypothecation is an agreement to give charge over goods or the documents of title to the goods which are not in the bank's possession. Right? It's an agreement to give charge over goods or the documents of title to the goods which are not in the bank's possession. Right? Now, this is hypothecation එක කියන එක එනවා මේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ දෙනවද TR loans bank of Slam දෙනවද TR loans Ceylon දෙනවද TR loans trust receipt loans in simple we call it TR loan
Then
දෙන්නේ bank of Slam People's Bank Sampath Bank එහෙම කවුරු ඉන්නවද TR loans දෙන bank එකක් කියන්න බලන්න ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නේ නැද්ද right bank of Slam දෙනවා People's Bank දෙනවා මම දන්නවා හොඳටම right සමහර banks දැන් සම්පතත් දෙනවා TR loans දෙනවා right එතකොට Standard Chartered වගේ banks උත් දෙනවා TR loans දෙනවා මේ එතෙන්දී banks has little or no control over the goods. The goods are with the seller. The goods are with the seller. But we have given the goods to them on trust. We have given the goods to them on trust. Right? It's an agreement to give charge over goods. අපි අරයා කියනවා ඒවන්ට මේ goods ටික ඔක්කොම මම බැංකුවේ නමට තියෙනවා. එහෙම කියලා අසං කරලා දෙනවා. I think again those people can manipulate, right? Trust receipt form is a hypothecation, and we use it where the bank has held the goods or their documents of title, but release the goods to the customer. In this way, we protect ourselves against any loss of our right as a pledgee. Then trust receipt is a hypothecation. We have given the goods to the customer against a document and we have released to the customer saying that customer asankala denege tiyenne Ceylon Bank we know that you are the owner of the goods but I accept the goods to keep with me and once I sell the goods, I will pay back the loan. The moment I sell the goods, I will pay back the loan. මගේ bank එකේ තමයි goods වල අයිතිකාරයා. හැබැයි මම customer ට දෙනවා on trust. Right? මේකත් එච්චර හොඳ එකක් නෙමෙයි hypothecation. Right? මම ඊගාවට trust receipt කරද්දි මම කියන්නම් එක example එකක් ඒක ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙනවා කොහොමද hypothecation එක වැඩක් නැත්තේ කියලා. Pledge is a better one. Pledge is a preferred method of taking security over goods. Any bank who are doing pledge loans දෙනවද? Trade customer දෙනවා. Trade customer pledge loans දෙනවා. මම දන්නවා commercial සම්පත් bank හැම bank එකක්ම දෙනවා. Pledge loans. It's a preferred method. Pledge loan එකේදී අපි කරන්නේ the goods will be in a warehouse and that warehouse is we put unlike mortgage or hypothecation we put the goods in a warehouse customer warehouse එකට වෙන්න පුළුවන්. දාලා අපි lock එකක් දානවා customer lock එකක් දානවා. Whenever the customer wants to release the goods, they have to come and pay the money to us. Then we will send a person to open our padlock. The customer will also open the padlock and we will release whatever the amount of goods as per the payment. Make is a preferred method of taking security over goods. Right? Full control. Fully control. Right? Right. Trust receipt is a legal document signed by the importer based on the pledge which allows the importer to have physical possession of the goods as bank's trustee while still acknowledging the bank's interest in them. The importer will have the physical possession of the goods as a bank's trustee. Banks are given the goods to them on trust. So he will hold on to the goods as the bank's trustee. But he recognized the fact that these goods are owned by the bank. The importer must hold the goods or sale proceeds thereof in trust for the bank. Either importer has to hold the goods in trust for the bank, or he has to settle the sale proceeds immediately to the bank. Right? මේකේ මම එක ස්ටෝරියක් කියන්නම්. මේකත් උනේ අරයටමයි. same customer. මම කිව්වා රිස්ක් එක කියද්දි අර ටියුබ් ලයිට්ස් වල මොනවද කෑලි ගෙනල්ලා අන්තිමේදී ඩස්බින් හම්බුනේ මෙයාට. ඒ same customer. Right? Same customer. When we give TR loans, I always make it a point to visit the customers on a regular basis. Either me or by one of my officers or RMs, we take turns. Every 3 weeks visit කරලා බලනවා. ඒක කරන්නම ඕන. Because those goods are mine, bank එකේ. right? ඒකෙන්ද මගේ බඩු කියලා මම බලන්න ඕන. right? ඊට පස්සේ මේගොල්ලන්ගේ දවසක් මම ගියා to visit there without informing. Normally I go without informing them, and the storekeeper refused to open the stores for me. Then I told him, you open it because it's on trust receipt. So I am the owner. I want to see. Then he telephoned the customer and told him there's a problem. So and so has come and asking me to open the stores. So then the customer, Mr. Caldera, I am busy, I can't come. Okay, don't come. You don't have to come. Right? You tell that guy to open it, otherwise I'm going to report it. Say, so ultimately, that guy opened I insist that I want to see the stores. Coriander, Kotamali, load deck, India, container loads again. A store seller, Colombo storeroom, Colombo, stores to me. Harima Lassanai, Lassan Tatugala, Lassan the Pizla, Duvili Kodakotne, Kotamali attack Patne. Kotamali attack at Hadisega me Corona වලටවත් තඹගෙන බොන්නවත් කොත්තමල්ලේ වැටිච්ච බෑග් වලින් වැටිච්ච එකක් වත් නැහැ. ගනි බෑග්ස් නේ ගනි බෑග්ස් වලින් යාට පැට පටවනකොට හිල්ලලා වැටෙනවනේ. එහෙම ඇටයක් වත් නැහැ ලස්සනට අතු ගාලා තියෙනවා. ඒතර මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? They have sold the goods but they have not settled our loans. That's a risk. ඔය risk එක mitigate කරන්න පුළුවන් එකම දේ තමයි you have to visit them properly. on a regular basis. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ බය වෙනවා. Right? එතකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ හරිනම් either they can keep the goods without selling, or if they sell, then they have to settle the loan. ඔතන තව එකක් කරන්නේ අපි TR loan ඉල්ල ගන්නවා අපෙන් 120 days TR loans. Credit guys, you have to understand when you are setting up the facilities. TR loan 120 days. මොකද commercial bank උත් දෙනවා, සම්පත් bank උත් දෙනවා, සෙලන් bank උත් දෙනවා, bank of loan උත් දෙනවා. I think NDB එකට ඇවිල්ලා කියනවා අපිටත් ඕන. නැත්තම් අපි එන්නේ නැහැ. කස් අර මං පරණ සීන් එක තමයි business loan එක ගන්නවා. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ බඩල් කුඩලා හැබැයි 20 days වලින් pay කරයි. වෙන තැනකින් රෝල දාලා. එතන වෙන්නේ any movement it can go bad, right? Those are the warning signals, right? Okay. අනිත් එක තමයි trust receipt වල තියෙන තවත් important aspect එක මම මේ ඔයගලන්ට දිගින් දිගටම කියන්නේ මේ bankers හැටියට දැනගන්න ඕනේ නේද? customer තියෙන එකම store warehouse එක නම් එයා warehouse එක තමයි කොහොමද දාන්නේ. And they open LCs with all the banks. They open LCs with commercial bank. They open LCs with Ceylon Bank, Bank of Sloan. තුන්දෙනාම open කරන්නේ කොත්තමල්ලි ගේන්න, කොරියන්ට ගේන්න. එතන කාගෙද මම ගියාම විසිට් කළාම Ceylon Bank එකේ කොත්තමල්ලි තෝගේ මට පෙන්නලා කියනවා මේ සර්ලා ගේවා. ඒක කොහෙත් ගහලා නැහැ නේ Ceylon Bank එකේ. කොත්තමල්ලි ගෝණි ටික ගන්න තියෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මම ලියාගෙන එනවා. කොමර්ෂල් බැංකෙන් ආවත් ඒකත් පෙන්නයි අර Ceylon Bank එකේ කොත්තමල්ලි ටික. Ceylon Bank එකෙන් ආවත් එතන වාගේ කොත්තමල්ලි ටික තියෙනවා. අපිව කඩේ අරගෙන යනවා. right? ඔය පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕනේ. Financing options in collection transactions. එකක් තමයි supplier credit. Second one is evaluation. So we'll see what is supplier credit and what is evaluation. This is supplier credit. Users DA cycle. මතකනේ මේක අපි කළා users DA collection cycle එක. Right? I'll allow you 1 minute to go through this serial wise. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4 විදිහට ගිහලා පොඩුවට ගන්න බලන්න steps ගන්න. First step, second step ඒ වගේ. First step is between the exporter and the importer, you have commercial contract. Then based on the commercial contract, you do the shipment. And then you give the documents along with the collection order to the remitting bank. Remitting bank will, they won't check in detail, but they will send the collection order to collecting or presenting bank. Once they receive that is interest country. Once they received it, they will present the goods, present the documents, and the importer will accept the draft. Make a user's DA can 60 days or 90 days or 30 days DA. They will accept the draft. Once they accept the draft, we will DA the documents against acceptance. We give the documents, number 7. Right? Up to now, it is clear. Then on the maturity date, we will pay. On the maturity date, we will pay. The importer will pay. Once importer pays us, we will deduct our charges, and the collecting bank or presenting bank will remit the money to the remitting bank. Then the remitting bank will deduct their charges, or deducting their charges. We are not downsell. We are banks. Less charges, we give the money to the principal or the exporter. This is the cycle. Here, if the maturity date is 60 days, 60 days DA, 60 days. එහෙම වුණොත් අපි සල්ලි ගෙවන්නේ documents ගත්තට පස්සේ මොකද කරන්නේ? අපි BA එක පෙන්නලා documents එක clear කරගන්නවා. And we have how many days to settle the bills? We have how many days to settle the bills?
60 days.
60 days we have. We have 60 days. So during that 60 days, we can sell the goods and collect the money. Then only we'll have to pay at maturity. Then, because of that, to settle the bills, you don't have to go to the bank and ask for a loan. වැඩක් ඕනේ නැහැ. loan එකක් ගන්න එපා. මොකද අර බඩු ටික විකුණලා අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. එතකොට කවුද මේ ඉම්පෝර්ටර්ට මේ ෆැසිලිටි එක දීලා තියෙන්නේ? බැංකුවෙන්ද දුන්නේ? එක්ස්පෝර්ටර්ද දීලා තියෙන්නේ?
Exporter.
Huh?
Exporter.
Exporter. Exporter has given that facility to the importer. That is why we call it supplier credit. Supplier credit. Supplier has given the credit, not the bank. Right? So this is one of the ways collection bills can be financed. Supplier credit. Supplier තමයි credit එක දෙන්නේ. මෙතෙන්දී banks කරන ලොකු mistake එකක් තියෙනවා. දැන් collection bills වලට අපි ගෙවනවා අපි කියනවා හරි මේක 6 days වලින් මේ කරනවා 6 days වලින් අපි agree වෙලා තියෙන්නේ commercial contract එකේ. එතකොට අපිට we can sell the goods and collect the money. හරි. එහෙම තියෙද්දී on the maturity date, sometimes some customers comes to the bank, some importers comes to the bank and ask for an import loan facility. Ask for an import loan facility. ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට my advice to you is don't give any facilities like that because we have lost control over the goods, already gone, and already he must have sold at least half or 3/4. Right? එතකොට there's some risk in that. ඉතින් මේවා හරි පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕන අපි කොහොමද ෆැසිලිටි එකක් දෙන්නේ කියන එක. හරි? මම People's Bank එකේ එහෙම මම ලෙක්චර්ස් කරනවා උගලගේ ඉන්ටර්නල් ලෙක්චර්ස්. එතකොට මේ bank managers ලා branch managers ලා credit department එකේ එහෙම ගන්නකොට ගොඩාක් questions මේවා එනවා. ඒක තෑන් කරනවා මේවා ඒ කතා කරලා අපි ගන්නවට. right? හරි පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕන.
Sir, if the inventory days are 90 days and the usance DA is 60 days, that can we bridge that 30 days gap?
90 days කොහොමද ආවේ?
No, that cycle for the importer to finish the cycle 90 days. And this,
මේ trade cycle. Trade cycle එක.
yes, sir.
නේද? Trade cycle නේ? Okay. Very good question. You are from නම කියලා bank එක කියනකොට
Thilipan DFCC Bank.
DFCC. Very good question. Right? Can somebody give me the answer? These are the important things that we have to discuss in the class. Right? මගේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ මොනවද පේන්නේ ඒකද බලනද? 90 days trade cycle. So customer needs 90 days to sell the market. He has 60 days from the supply credit. So he
Bank can give 30 days.
can give for 30 days. හැබැයි ඒකේදී facility එක හදන්න ඕන
Maximum.
facility එක හදන්න ඕන. මෙහෙම 90 days වලට facility එක හදනවා. හදලා ඒකේ අපි conditions දාන්න ඕන. You have to deduct the supply credit period. දැන් ඔන්න 68 day එකේ ඇවිල්ලා තව 90 days වලට දුන්නොත් දැන් එයාගේ import loan facility එක 90 days වලට తీරවයි කියලා අපි එදාට 90 days වලට දුන්නොත් එම ඒ කියන්නේ 5 months. That will go on to 5 months. That is wrong. That is wrong. Right? ඒකට මේ ඒ conditions දාලා තමයි අපි facility එක දෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක තේරුණාද? බැලලා site bill එකක් ආවනම් we can give for 90 days. We can give for 90 days. If it is a usance one, then we have to deduct the supply credit portion and then give the balance. Right? Only 30 days. Chanley ne dekhuwa 30 days kiyala. Oh, right. So 30 days you have to. Dileban, you understood?
Understood.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, those are the questions I might miss. Then collection avalanche. Collections avalanche. Make it බලන්න විනාඩියක් අරගෙන බලන්න ඔක්කොම up to number 7. Right. Up to number 7, I am not going to discuss. It's like a game. It must say, avalization means now in a collection, the importer will accept the draft. Okay. If the importer doesn't pay on the maturity date, what can we do as a collecting bank? What can we do? Make a balloon up. On the maturity date, they will pay. Ek pay kare natta. 68 day ke pay kare nahi. What can we do?
Bank doesn't have any obligation.
We have no particular obligations. Nothing. As a as the presenting bank, nothing. Then what is our obligation? We have no obligation to pay, but what is our obligation then?
Straight to the remitting bank.
Very good. Very good. May I speak in there? Dilepan there. How then kata answer ke dunne?
Amila.
Amila. Thank you, Amila. ඔගොල්ලෝ හොඳයි ඔගොල්ලෝ වගේ කතා කරන්න ඕන right මම encourage කරන එක our only obligation is to inform the remitting bank right inform the remitting bank ඒ remitting bank එකට හැබැයි කියන්න මොනවා අපි කිව්වේ නැත්නම් නෙදේ ඒක අපේ obligation එක අපේ පැහැරහැරි වෙනවා negligence ඒක කියන්න ඕන එච්චරයි හැබැයි avalization is a different thing. Once the customer accepts the draft number 6, we give the documents, right? But before that, what we will do is we will avalize the draft. Now, customer has accepted the draft. they sign on the draft, they sign accepted to pay on such and such a date. Accepted to pay on such and such a date. Then they put the company rubber stamp and sign, authorized person will sign. That's how the acceptance is done. Now, once they accept the draft, the bank, collecting bank, or we call it collecting bank or the evaluating bank, the same bank as the presenting bank, collecting bank, evaluating bank with evaluating bank, they will go ahead and they will also put their acceptance on the draft. Say, accept to pay on such and such a date. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි කියන්නේ evaluate to pay on 31st December. Evaluate to pay on 31st December. Date එක දාලාම ලියනවා. 6 days ආවම අපි හිතමු 31st December කියලා 31st December කියලා දැම්මා. And it is a guarantee by a bank. And that's an irrevocable guarantee. Then once you have once a remitting bank has that irrevocable guarantee from bank, what they will do is immediately, without waiting for 60 days, they will discount the bill and give money to the exporter immediately. Right? Then on the maturity date, importer will pay, number 11. Importer will pay on the maturity date, and then we will deduct our charges and remit the money to the remitting bank. Right? Evaluated bank will remit the money. Megullo apo denne naha. They have already given the money to two months back. Remitting bank has given the money to the exporter. But still, if there's a shortfall to give, that they will give. Is it clear? Right? Even if the customer doesn't pay, number 11, even if the customer doesn't pay, number 11 වලට කලින් තමයි number 10 තියෙන්නේ. දැක්ක නේද? Number 10 තියෙන්නේ ඊට කලින්. On the due date, the evaluating bank has to pay the remitting bank. It is like an LC, irrevocable undertaking. Clear? Right. Advantages of evaluated collections over users DCs: lower usage of limits, document checking not required. Then make a document checking right? Make a collection bill. Hence, no issue of discrepant documents. Purely for credit support on accepted collection. Right? Evaluate කියන වචනේ evaluation කියන්නේ it's a French word. Accepted pour aval කියලා French word එකක්. POURAVAL. POURAVAL. Accepted pour aval. Right? ඒක තමයි French word එක අපි evaluation කියලා කියනවා. මේක අපේ Oxford dictionary එකවත් නැති වචනයක්. Right? Okay. Finance for import collection bills. Basic principle: advances should only be paid against import collection bills where the remitting bank supply has already been paid or is to be paid with the proceeds of the advance. Finance for import collection bills. Berewalaවත් import collection bills ඇවිල්ලා import bill එක clear කරගන්න customer ඇවිල්ලා අපෙන් කියනවා madam, I need a facility to clear the collection bills, to settle the collection bills. අපි එතකොට collection bills settle කරන්න දෙන්නේ සල්ලි දෙන්නේ customer ගේ අතට නෙමෙයි. මේ facility එක හදලා we'll have to ensure that we are paying the exporter or the supplier. Remitting bank එකට payment අරින්න ඕන. right? We retire the bill. We retire the bill and settle the money to the supplier's bank, remitting bank, right? එහෙම නැතුව අපි අරබිනයක අතට දෙන්නේ නැහැ. Then matters to be considered by banks: pledge of goods stored in warehouses, pledge of documents of title to goods, right? Delivery of goods against TR, finance for import collection, right? And importers bank evaluation the importers acceptance. Importer acceptance again, importers bank evaluate කරලා payment එක කරනවා. Number 10 coming again, right? Okay. Documented credit as financing structures. Those are documentary collections, now documented credit. Of import facilities, you know, 3 generic products may be made available under an import line. එකක් තමයි documentary credit. Documentary credit එක import line එකක්. Whenever the customer wants import facility, we start with documentary credit facility to open LCs. We give facility to open LCs to be settled on a later date, right? 1 month කොහමරි ඒ වගේ like a trade cycle again in our facility. Then structured post shipment finance. Once they receive the goods to the country, then we'll have to see if it is a side bill, we have to pay immediately, so we have to give import loans. And if it is a usance bill, you have to accept the draft, right? The acceptance facility එකක් දෙන්න ඕන. ඔය ඔක්කොම අපි හදන්න ඕන. Import loans, a structured post shipment finance and the import loans, then the shipping guarantee. Shipping guarantee is another third import facility, right? Shipping guarantee means to release the goods of a customer where we have received the goods by sea. What is the document we need to release the goods? What is the document we need to release the goods? Customs, ports, document. They want
bill of lading.
They want bill of lading, transport document. They want bill of lading and the commercial invoice, right? But sometimes, for example, we have received the goods to the port, but as per the LC conditions, they say presentation 21 days. Presentation 21 days. That means from the date of shipment, within 21 days, they have the exporter's bank has to send the documents. Within 21 days, exporter has the time to present the documents to the exporter's bank, right? If the voyage is for 1 day or 2 days from India to Sri Lanka, maximum 1 day or 1.5 days, right? එතකොට ඒක ආවා documents ඉදද සුමානක් විතර යනවා. ඒ වෙනකොට අර බඩු ටික harbor එකේ නරක් වෙනවා. So they will come to the bank and ask for a shipping guarantee because the shipping agent will not release the documents without an undertaking from the bank. So the bank, what they will do is they will collect, they will ask the customer to give an indemnity, indemnifying the bank for all risk, and then based on the customer's indemnity, we will issue the shipping guarantee. The bank will issue the shipping guarantee. Shipping company wala වෙනම separate documentation documentation we endorse it. Once we issue the shipping guarantee, the bank will bank will promise to give a liability of 300%. 300%. Goods value is $10,000, but the shipping guarantee value is $30,000. Shipping guarantee is 300% of the goods value. Right? Eka karanne api thora security ka ganna api security ko tem tiya ganna peda. That is to discourage customers taking shipping guarantee, because it's a very risky thing. If you don't receive the documents, correct documents, BL, then you won't be able to cancel the shipping guarantee. Until you get the original bill of lading, you won't be able to cancel the shipping guarantee. Shipping guarantee cancel කරන්න බෑ කියන්නේ බැංක් එකේ liability එක තියෙනවා. Shipping guarantee liability එක normally it should be unlimited. හැබැයි ඉතින් ලංකාවේ rules ඇටියට at least 6 years වත් තියාගන්න වෙනවා. මම දැකලා නැහැ. හැබැයි partner shipping guarantees වෙන්න පුළුවන්. If the buyer and seller get together, they can play out the bank. They can play out the bank. Right? ඒකයි මම කලින් කිව්වා නේද? You have to be very careful when you are giving shipping guarantees. Like the පාරක් තුන් පාරක් මම mention කළා. Now you know why we have to be careful. Right? Then import loans is a short-term cash advance with reports, of course. Right? ඒක ඔයගොල්ලෝ කියවලා බලන්න. Under such arrangement, the bank finances the customer's input commitments by making payment against the letter of credit or document collection and receives payment from the customer as a predetermined date in the future. Import loan එක අපේ සාමාන්‍ය trade cycle එක හැටියට අපිට දෙන්න පුළුවන්. Shipping guarantee I have explained, so I am not going to discuss it now. And since the bank loses the control of goods, the cash line must be marked or issue against 110% cash margin. Normally, අපි 110% cash margin එකකට තමයි යන්නේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් customer shipping guarantee line එකක් තියෙනවා නම් අපි line එක mark කරනවා. ගොඩාක් banks එක වැරද්දක් කරනවා. When they are marking the cash line, the facility, they marked 100%. That's wrong. If the shipping guarantee is 10,000, if the goods are for 10,000, the commercial invoice is for 10,000, you have to mark the shipping guarantee lines with 30,000. 300% mark කරන්න ඕන. 300% mark කලේ නැත්නම් වෙන්නේ අපි over a period of time we are overutilizing the shipping guarantee lines. බැරිලාවත් අපි 10,000 worth of goods sold 30,000 mark line එක full වෙනවා. line එක full වෙනකොට අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් customer ට කලින් ඒවා ගෙල්ලා cancel කරගන්න. ඒවා cancel කරගත්තේ නැත්නම් අපිට දෙන්න බෑ. අපි ඒක කියන්නේ. ඔතනත් banks to bank to bank business ඕනෙන්ද දැන් ඒක බහැලා 100% rule. If a bank at 100% rule ගියාම අරගලලා කියනවා that bank is doing this, why you are marking 300%? We are going for bad, wrong practices. Right? Theory is one, what you are doing is wrong. But anyway, if you are not marking the cash lines, we have to ask customer to keep 110% cash margin. Why 110% cash margin? I 100% margin. We keep 10% for any
exchange rate fluctuation.
Yeah, plus or minus fluctuation. Right? Exchange rate to the window පුළුවන්. තව goods plus or minus වෙන්න පුළුවන් 5%. ඒවට අපි 10% leverage එකක් තියෙනවා. Export facility products, pre-shipment, make a monkey loans against exports, packing credits, manufacturers advance, grant against the DC confirmed order in our customer's favor, right? Granted against a DC confirmed order in our customer's favor, right? Generally, for 60 to 80% of the DC of confirmed order, pre-shipment at LCA king 60 to 80% confirm order එකක් තියෙනවා. හොඳ confirm DC කරන්න වඩා හොඳයි දෙන්න ඕන. අපි හරි පරිස්සම් වෙන්න ඕන. මොකද බැරි වෙලාවවත් supplier or the exporter has not fulfilled his obligations, then the money will go for 6. Right? Again, the pre-shipment loans against a DC, my advice is you have to have with recourse to the customer. With recourse to the customer. Again, the facility with some other collateral. ඉඩමක්වත් mortgage කරලා බැංක් එකට දෙන්න ඕන. property එකක්වත් mortgage කරලා වෙනම pre-shipment loan facility එකක් හදන්න ඕන, packing credit facility එකක්. නැතුව if you are taking the DC as the security, what රැවටෙනවා, බැංකුවත් රවට්ටනවා. This is the main problem we are having with relationship managers in the credit department. Always they come and ask for pre-shipment facility. මේකට දෙන්න ඇයි බැරි? මොකද මේක තමයි theory එක. ඒගොල්ලෝ දන්නේ theory එක. නමුත් practically ඕක නෙමෙයි වෙන්නේ. Right? You have to think if the supplier if the exporter has not fulfilled his obligations, then what is happening? සල්ලි ටිකක් නැහැ. මිනිස්සු හොයන්න වෙන්නේත් නැහැ. Right? Duration match to latest shipment date. සොතර බලන්න ඕන. Duration should match to the latest shipment date. Booked under cash line. Very important. මම මේක දාලම තිබ්බේ booked under cash line. As the DC of confirmed order provides comfort only and the bank has no control of the goods. It's a comfort, not a security. So you have to book under cash line. Cash line can 100% cash covered. Right? It are important. You are important way Uganda ඉස්සරහට වැඩ කරද්දී ඕනම department එක. Head close DC. ඒකට facility එකක් ඕනේ නැහැ. No facility required. Because the issuing bank has given that undertaking. Issuing bank එන්න දෙන්නේ මතකනේ red class sales එකේ ඒක බය නැතුව free shipment දෙන්න පුළුවන්. Post shipment is DC negotiation we discussed, right? Provided documents are in compliance with the DC terms, the bank is taking issuing bank's risk and no facility limit is required by our customer. Right? හැබැයි ඒ TFG එක අසං කරලා තියාගන්න ඕන. Non-compliant documents වලට අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් under letter of indemnity LID lead line එක. Non-compliant document නම් අපිට දෙන්න බෑනේ. ඒකට අපිට පුළුවන් customer ගේ indemnity එකක් අරගෙන දෙන්න. Government programs to help finance exports. Most governments wants to encourage exports or jobs. So in many countries, there are institutions that offers export credit insurance at favorable rates. And also government supported banks for export financing. Right? Exim Bank came, China wala thin Exim Bank, a bank like that. Right? Trade Bank of China, you know, government again support karna. Export trade insurance. Exporters often get business because they offer more favorable trade terms than their competitors. Right? So because of that, they need some of the securities. So export trade insurance allows companies to offer favorable trade terms. Because in case of default, the insurance companies will pay a substantial part of the loss. Favorable competitive rates may prices quote with the business, right? The Export Trade Insurance Corporation or Sri Lanka Export Trade Insurance Corporation is a similar one in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka Export Trade Insurance Corporation. We call it SLESIC. Sri Lanka Export Trade Insurance Corporation. SLESIC. Right? The major activities of SLESIC is SLESIC was started in 1978 or 79 after Mr. J.R. Jayawardena came into power with the free economy, open economy. They wanted to encourage the exporters to get more money to the country. So they opened the Parliament Act. They opened this institution, SLESIC. Right? So they give pre-shipment trade guarantees. And also they give post-shipment trade guarantees. Right? They have done a bit lazy pre-shipment financing, making guarantees. Guarantee venom. Pre-shipment, post-shipment negotiation whenever making guarantee. Make security right? Issue of export production credit guarantees. Issue of export performance guarantees covering ATA Khane system. Issue of export performance guarantees covering ATA Khane system. Right? ATA Khane systems. When you take precious items like gems and jewelries and ivory for exhibition or something, either you have to pay export tax, and when you are bringing the balance back to the country, you have to pay import tax. To avoid that, we issue ATA Khane guarantee. Charge ATA Khane issue right? Issue of export payment insurance policies, seller's risk. Seller's risk, export trade insurance solutions provided by the SLESIC insures the seller's credit term portfolio against non-payment by buyers for a nominal premium considering the overall liquidity position of the seller. The bank covered insures the seller's credit term portfolio against non-payment by buyers. The make up the SLESIC security SLESIC insurance and customer collection bills and discount. You can discount the collection bills of that particular customer, because even if they do not pay, it is covered by the insurance policy. Right? Insures non-payment of specific shipments, specific buyers countries. This is not valid for every Tom, Dick and Harry. You have to have specific customers, specific shipments from specific countries. Selected ඒවට තමයි මේ කරන්නේ. SLESICුත් ඒව හොඳට හොයලා බලලා reliable නම් තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ දෙන්නේ. Ensures Sri Lankan exporters against non-payment of the shipments that are affected from a second country to a third country. Entrepot trade. Entrepot trade මා වෙනම කරනවා. Right? Entrepot trade එකත් SLESIC වලින් cover කරනවා කියලා විතරක් ඔළුවේ තියාගන්න. Ensures non-payment for export of services such as software, construction, blah, blah, blah. The risk covered are insolvency of the buyer. Even the customer, the buyer goes insolvent, bankrupt, insurance again, protracted default buyer. If the buyer try to default the payment, claim karagana. Non-acceptance by the buyer, by the time we have sent the document, he had not accepted. Occurrence of hostilities, wars, insurrections, civil law, political disturbances, terrorist attacks, natural disasters in the buyer's country. Even whenever අපිට කව කරගන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. දැන් කාලේ හැටියට නම් මේ COVID-19 රෝගෙම තියෙනකොට මේක හොඳ මේකක් ස්පෙસિෆික් එකට. General moratorium declared by the government of the buyer's country. Right? Government taking general moratorium we are not paying these shipments, paying side bills. All are only after 180 days. අපි ලංකාවේ දැන් යන්නේ ඒ වගේ කිව්වොත් ඒවත් කව වෙනවා. හැබැයි දෙකක් තියෙන්නේ මේවා මුලදී 1979 වලදී පටන් ගත්තාම ලස්සනට ගියා. දැන් මේගොල්ලොත් ස්පෙසිෆික් එකක්, even though it's a semi government one, they are also like other insurance companies. Then other insurance company, if you met with an accident, your car, very difficult to get the insurance. Even though you are fully insured, they will come out with all sort of excuses. Right? The same thing here. Then ඉස්සරනම් ඔතයක් හොදට ගියා. අපේ මිනිස්සුත් වරද්දලා ඇති. අපේ මිනිස්සුත් හොර කරන්න ඇති. ඒගොල්ලෝ එකතු වුණා නම් ගේම් එකක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් නේ. දැන් ඔක තමයි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. Changes in the laws of the buyer's country and for import ban may ban. Right? Risk not covered by the insurance, specific insurance again, risk not covered. Dispute between the exporter and the importer, quality, quantity, packing, eva the cover වෙන්නේ disputes එදෙන රන් වෙලා බයනතු කියද හැකි ඔන්න මම දාරන් තියෙන සෙසෙක් කවර එකක් අපි දෙන්න ගෝරයක් දාගෙන මේ කරුම හරියට සල්ලි එනවනේ ඊට පස්සේ අපි උනාට ෂේප් එකක් කරනවා භාගෙ බෙදාගමු ඒව බෑ right unless the exporter obtain a court decree in his favor. Causes inherent in the nature of goods, like causes inherent in the nature of the goods. Salt. If you are importing salt from India, දැන්ටත් ගේනවා ලංකාව වටේම මූද ඒත් අපි ලුණු සමහරලාට ගේනවා දැන් ඒක ඉන්හරන්ට් රිස්ක් එකක් තියෙනවා සෝල්ට් එන්නේ ගනි බෑග්ස් වල ඒ ගනි බෑග්ස් වල එන සෝල්ට් අපි ඔන් ඩෙක් දාගෙන આવොත් නැවේ තට්ටුවේ පටවගෙන આવොත් රෆ් සී එකේදී මූදේ අර වතුර අර බුරුව පිටේ ලුණු අරන් ගියා වගේම ඒ කතාවම තමයි වතුර වැදින්න ලුණු ටික දිය වෙලා ඇය කොළඹට එනකොට ගෝණි ටික විතරක් බා ගන්න පුළුවන් ගෝණි ටික බා ගන්න පුළුවන් ලුණු ටික නෑ අන්න ඒවා කව වෙන්නේ නෑ right එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි හිතමු හයිඩ්‍රජන් පෙරොක්සයිඩ් ඒක වලට එහෙම දාන්නේ හයිඩ්‍රජන් පෙරොක්සයිඩ් H2O2 අපි අරන් එනවා ගේනකොට ඔන් ඩෙක් දාගෙන එනවා නැවේ තට්ටු මත පටවගෙන එනකොට a bottles වල if it exposed to the direct sunlight H2O2 මොකද H2O plus O2 H2O කියන්නේ වතුර O2 කියන්නේ oxygen මේක හැදෙනවා මේ chemical එක හැදෙනවා for the direct sunlight H2O එක වතුර අපි අරන් ඉන්නේ hydrogen peroxide මෙහාට එනකොට දෙන්නේ වතුර H2O right oxygen ටික බෝතලේ හරියම යන්නේ the eva causes inherent in the nature of the goods default of any agents of the exporter right fluctuation in the exchange rates eva cover වෙන්නේ නැහැ right මේකත් අපි ඉවරම කරලා දාමු එතකොට මට අපිට විනාඩි 10ක් 15ක් දෙන්න. ඒතර අපි පුළුවන් ද ඔයගලට ඉන්න? අනිත් දවසට මට යන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. කෙලින්ම අපිට සම්ස්ටික් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? Are you okay with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Invoice financing. මේකත් ඔයගලන්ට questions වලට එන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක ස්ලේසික් වගේ එකක් එන්නම්. ඒ invoice financing වගේ එන්න පුළුවන්. Invoice financing ගොඩක් මේ locally වෙන්නේ. Right? මම මේක කියලා දෙන්නම්. කියලා දීලා ඔයගලන්ට කිව්වට පස්සේ මේ නෝට් එක බලන්න පුළුවන්. Right? නෝට් එක උගන්ට සිස්ටම් එකේ තියෙනවනේ. ඒක උගන්ට අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා තියෙන එක බලන්න පුළුවන්. මම කියන්නම්. Okay. Companies like Cargill's, Kegels, Apico, Spa වගේ companies මේ food outlets තියෙනවනේ. ඒ food outlets වල මේ දවස්වල අපි ගත්තේ මොකද්ද ගන්න උදාහරණයක්. අරලිය හාල්. දැන් ලොකු ඉෂුව එකක් නේද? ගැසට් එකක් දැම්ම දැන් හාල් නැහැ. Right? Now earlier rice they will supply to Cargill Food City. But normally they will get the money after 2 months. We assume they are getting normally that's how all these supermarkets are paying their suppliers. Right? They take 30 days, 60 days, even 90 days. I know one food outlet is there, famous outlet. Even for mushroom හැදින්න යන්නේ දවස් 7යි දවස් 8යි. mushroom එක සල්ලි ගන්න යනවා 3 months, 90 days. ඒ අරගෙනසේ කොහොමද business කරන්නේ? ඒ වගේ තමයි ඒගොල්ලන්ට දෙන්නේ. They have the monopoly. So they will say, okay, we will pay you only after 6 days. 6 days it will පස්සේ මේක earlier people they have to wait for 6 days to get the money. Instead of that, what they can do if they want cash to support their cash flow issues, they will come to the bank or the financing agency. Make an invoice financing in LOLC, asset line, finance company. මේගොල්ලෝ කරන වැඩේ මේගොල්ලෝ bank එකට ගෙනල්ලා invoices ටික දෙනවා. Right? Ceylon Bank, you do this invoice financing, no? Sajini? No, Shanabi?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you do. Right. DFCC yours also?
Yeah, we do, boss.
Yeah, you do. So the customer will come to one of your good customers. First you do the KYCs and everything, and then they'll come to the bank and then submit the invoices to you. Normally they give you a photocopy of the invoice financing. Photocopy of the invoice with a covering letter and undertaking and everything. Right? As per the credit terms, the bank will, as per the agreement with the customer, bank will release 80 to 90% of the face value of the invoice of the finance customer. So if the supplier has supplied rice to Cargill's Food City FC on 1st of November, by 10th of November, customer got the money. But physically, he will get the money from Cargill on 1st of January. 1st of January. Right? Seller remains responsible for managing the sales ledger. එයා තමයි sales ledger කරන්නේ. එතකොට they send the original invoices to the buyer. ඊට පස්සේ monitoring receipt of funds මේ ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ අරලිය. Right? Chasing late payments ඒ ඔක්කොම අරලිය කරන්නේ. On receipt of the payment, the seller pays what is due to the discounter of the invoice plus charges and interest and retain the balance with you. Right? Now, අපි දැන් 100,000 invoice එකේ අපි දුන්නා 80,000 දුන්නා 80,000 දීලා first වල අරගොල්ලෝ මේ කාර්ගිල්ස් එකත් එක්ක follow up කරගෙන ඇවිල්ලා අන්තිමට end of the day on 1st of January that guy earlier has to pay the bank. Earlier has to pay the bank. Right? With interest. ඒ වෙනකොට ඒගොල්ලෝ ගෙන්න ගන්නවා අරගොල්ලන්ගෙන් සල්ලි. පරක් වුණොත් මේවට penalty charges ගෙවන්න වෙනවා. But the sales ledger managing of the sales ledger is a responsibility of the seller. The lender providing an invoice discounting service will have to consider whether the seller can be relied upon honestly and promptly to account for payment. මම මේ වැඩේ කියන්න ඕනේ මම ඔගොල්ලෝ කියව ගන්න මම මේව කටපාඩම් මම කියන්නේ and with my experience before we give the facility to earlier we have to do a thorough checking KYC එකක් කරලා අපි ඒ honesty prompt payment ඔක්කොම අපි බලන්න ඕන. ඒකම අපි බලන්න ඕන කවුද අනිත් පැත්තේ ඉන්නේ CFC Cardiff City. How are they? Whether they are good paymasters. Will they honor the payments on the due date? ඒ පැත්ත අපි බලන්න යනවා. Right? ඒගාවට seller experience එක ඔක්කොම අපි බලනවා. The buyers are known to be bad risk or based in a country from which obtaining payment is difficult. We will not do these things. Right? අතන locally උනත් අපි හොඳ නැත්තම් අපි දෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right? Factoring කියන්නේ මේකම තමයි. It can be domestic factoring or international factoring. International factoring නාදී අපේ ලංකාවේ because if it is international factoring we'll have to have the systems iFactor වගේ systems තියාගෙන යන්න ඕනේ අපි අඩුයි but local factoring domestic factoring you know the only difference is in factoring is same like invoice financing but the sales ledger management will be done by the factor. That's a bank. Sales ledger management will be done by the factor. Right? So that means but the charges are high. Invoice financing again. Now the earlier doesn't have to worry about getting the payments and all. It is the obligation of the bank. And there is responsibility of the bank. Right? That's the difference. Sales ledger management. Advantages of factoring. Factors are experts at collecting and chasing up unpaid invoices. It is cost effective to sellers because they have washed their hands. They are given the normally here the seller has to give the original invoice to us because we are the people who are doing the follow-ups, no? Collecting and chasing. So we must have the original invoice. ඒක හැබැයි අතින්දී අපිට assign කරලා තියෙන්න ඕන. අර කම්පැනි එකත් එක්ක CFC එක. හොරෙන් නෙමෙයි මේක වෙන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ දැනුවත්ව ඒගොල්ලන්ට assign කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් අපිට assign කරලා පස්සේ අපි තමයි කරන්නේ. Seller ට හරිය ලේසි cost effective to sellers. No sales ledger management. We do financing the working capital needs of the trade cycle will be straightforward. Right? Cash flow is more predictable because of the immediate advance against invoice. Without recourse factoring provides a guarantee against bad debts. Without recourse factoring provides a guarantee against bad debts. ඒක නම් වෙන්නේ නැහැ අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් with recourse to the customer තමයි යන්නේ. And we always insure against the bad debts. Ekat customer can done by, right? Saving on sales ledger administration. Disadvantages are also there, right? Who can benefit from factoring? Factoring is particularly suited to a company which exports consumer products on open account terms, right? They have to get the money. They got the factoring, experience occasional cash flow restrictions. Company is expanding, then the rapid rise in open account trade in Asia is the principal reason factoring has rapidly gained in popularity in the region over past few years. That's gone on because open account trade is rapidly spreading in very popular in Asian region, and because of that, factoring also now very popular in the region, right? Okay, I think I managed to finish it, everything. The weather God supported us to finish the thing. Next week, I will do some facility sums with you. Api first session එක කරමු. ඒකින්ද යාළුවෝ ඔක්කොටම කියන්න to be in the class by 1 o'clock. We will start at 1 o'clock because of the bad weather these days. We will try to start early, keeping a provision, right? Please be ready by 1 o'clock, right? Api අනිත් පැත්තෙන් යාළුවෝ ඔක්කොටම ඉන්නේ කියන්න බෙල්ට් එක නාපු කට්ටියට මොකද we are going to do the facility sums which you might get, right? You might get or you might not take them, but it is in the syllabus, right? Okay. Any questions? All the three, I have finished 3 lessons today. Anything, I'm available. I'm at home, no problem. It is up to you. If not, we'll make it, we'll call it a day. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I
you, sir.
you all
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
safe week. Get a okay, thank you.